Good morning, Shannon, if you can hear me. Whoa, I see comments already. Wes Perkins, Anthony Del Toro, Hector Gomez, Jason Garcia, Steve Duraco, the original Rock, THE Rock, the human element, man's threat, woman's pet, the ultimate object of desire, and co-founder of the San Antonio Polar Bear Club. Good morning, Steve Duraco. Thank God for coffee, because cocaine is illegal. Otherwise, I mean, who needs that, right? Me doing lines of coke in the studio before the show, you don't need that. And that's illegal. We'd never do anything illegal. But once they legalize it, they can be a sponsor for the show. And, you know, I'm very sponsor loyal. Here we go. Luisa Gonzalo. Everybody else, welcome in. Beware the Ides of March. It is March 15th. It is March Madness. It's just another manic Monday. Wish it was Sunday, because that's my fun day. My I don't have to run day. Welcome in. It is the Chris Duel Show, along with Shannon, Salty, Sweeney. Thanks for being here. I'm Chris Duel. I just was informed by the boy wonder, Jeremy Fouts, moments ago that we'll introduce him to you. We got like a big time soundscape stylist in training. I don't know why they sent him to our little radio show. He's usually working with the big monster, monolithic 50,000 watt blowtorch of greatness and glory that is 1200 WOAI News Talk Radio out of San Antonio. Dave Ayler. We'll meet Dave in a little bit, but first, Shannon, Salty, Sweeney, how are you on this manic Monday?
I'm fantastic, but are you ready and refreshed? And I mean, you had a huge vacation last week.
Yeah, I am.
You had coffee with the sun and not prior to. It's rising.
That is true. It was nice to get sleep, and I think I told you on the Friday before I left. I think I told you, and it always happens whenever I go on vacation. Like huge sports stories happen.
Oh yeah, big week last week.
I think I even said Dak's going to sign. There's going to be some big bombshell about Dak. You had that. You had the eyes of Texas. I mean, Texas wins the Big 12 championship. I mean, if I would just go on vacation forever, there'd be huge sports eruptions daily in the sports world. So now nothing's going to happen all this week.
Yeah, I don't know what your plans are for next week, but Texas could use you sitting next week out.
Yeah, I'll consider it. I will. And speaking of Texas, my goodness, will we hear Shannon, Salty, Sweeney's public apology to Shaka So Smart and congratulate him for winning the Big 12 championship? And I sent it to you. I'm watching the Selection Sunday show yesterday on CBS. Clark Kellogg, who knows a thing or two about college basketball, and I think I retweeted it if anybody wants to see the moment on video, picking and for many people listening to this radio show, and I'm even wearing my Texas Longhorn t-shirt to pander to our Texas audience, the Texas Longhorns, Clark Kellogg picking them to go to the Final Four. Shannon, the floor is yours. Shaka, Coach Smart, if you're listening, here is Shannon's apology.
No apology here.
God!
If you're Clark Kellogg, I don't know what his relationship is to the cereal, but you're the second famous Kellogg. And still not even that high on my list. I don't care what you say. I don't think Texas makes it past the second round here. I mean, they tripped and fell their way into that Big 12 tournament. And I know people are like, well, they beat Kansas twice already. Well, Texas Tech beat Texas twice during the season. What do you say? It's hard to beat a team 3 times in a
Yeah.
row. Texas played a gassed OSU on Saturday night. And, it all fell in the right places for Texas, as it always seems to do for Shaka. He just has another excuse to keep going and being the Texas head coach. I think they can play okay against Abilene Christian. I would think they win. There would be major uproar, and rightfully so if they don't. But it looks to me like they're most likely going to be facing BYU in that round of 32, and I think they're going to get popped.
Maybe the ghost of Jimmer Fredette will show up for BYU. Couple of things occur to me. Number one, and you mentioned you say this a lot. Shaka Smart tends to get the right breaks at the right times when he needs them to keep his job. And certainly, whatever that discussion is at the end of the season, when Chris Del Conte and the powers that be at the University of Texas sit down with Shaka Smart and determine the future of that men's basketball program, one of the things he'll say is, hey, got a little Big 12 championship here just now, just in case you guys missed that.
Big 12 tournament championship.
Well, doesn't that therefore mean you are the champions of the Big 12?
Baylor is the champion of the Big 12 season. Texas gets the tournament champion, and they didn't even have to go through Baylor.
I'd rather have
play everybody like you have to do during the season.
Yeah, I'd rather have the tournament championship
really?
If
that's the one that secures a March Madness bid.
And they get number 3.
Play well.
Number 3 in the East. So, but also Abilene Christian. First of all, whenever I hear Abilene Christian, anybody my age who's a Cowboys fan, the greatest graduate of Abilene Christian University is number 19, Clint Longley, who threw the Hail Mary pass before there was ever a Hail Mary pass. Thanksgiving Day, November 28th, 1974, 50-yard bomb to Drew Pearson, friend of the show. Dude, we'll probably be hanging out with it in Canton, Ohio in August. Got to get Drew back on the show. We're working on that as well. Clint Longley, rookie Cowboy quarterback who was a Thanksgiving Day hero in 1974, a graduate of Abilene Christian. That's the team the Longhorns will play on Saturday in the first round of the NCAA tournament. But Abilene Christian, 23-4, and I know they don't play the same competition. The Big 12 probably has the toughest competition anywhere in college basketball this year, but 23-4, no matter who you're playing, ain't too shabby. And Abilene Christian leads the nation in forced turnovers.
Yes.
They force 20 turnovers a game. All I'm saying is don't sleep on Abilene Christian.
And of course, Texas, I believe I saw last night, they're ranked 230 out of 240 in being a team that turns over the ball, averaging more than 14 a game.
So Abilene Christian forces 20, Texas averages 14, so we'll say about 17, average that out. Texas will have to win that game with about 17 turnovers. So just saying. So there's that. Lots to talk about. So we got, and I didn't even mention, and we'll get into this, my goodness, because wasn't officially back until 17 minutes ago, Shannon. Your boy from, was it Austin Westlake? I confused the Austin Powerhouse High School.
Yeah.
Austin Westlake's very own Drew Brees. He doesn't announce his retirement. His kids, as you know, Shannon, announced his retirement. What is your reaction to Austin Westlake's own Drew Brees riding off into the sunset?
I'm happy for him. I'm glad we didn't drag it out any longer, since now we ultimately know he is going to retire. But again, timing just so strange. I mean, I'm on my phone on the Twitterverse waiting for March Madness announcements to begin for seeding and all of that good stuff. And then this pops up. I'm like, okay, it's Drew's day. Forget Selection Sunday. It's Thank You, Drew Brees Day.
Yeah. It was kind of a Selection Sunday. It's kind of a big day, Drew.
And we saw those videos of him working out. You almost wonder if he was kind of testing himself. And then the thing with Tiger, where he was on the other end of that for where Tiger was heading to prior to his crash. So you wonder if all these things came into play. And ultimately, he just said, this is best for me and probably best for the team that I make this announcement now. So now Jameis Winston is at home, just like waiting on a phone call.
Wow, and that's going to be really interesting. And we're going to get into this throughout the morning on Drew Brees and what's next for the New Orleans Saints. In fact, our New Orleans Saints go-to guy, Saints freak, Dylan Emery, going to join us at 7:06 in less than an hour to talk Drew Brees and what may be next at quarterback for the New Orleans Saints. Now, as you know, Shannon, Drew Brees says, and I mean, so many of us, myself included, were wondering, Drew Brees, it's March now. You know, you're going to make a decision. Apparently, yesterday was 15 years to the day when he signed with the New Orleans Saints. So for whatever the reason, he thought that would be special, I guess, to announce his retirement on the 15th anniversary of his signing with New Orleans. How much do you put into that being the reason he did this on Selection Sunday?
It means the team and him probably knew this was coming sooner than obviously the rest of us. I mean, a lot of times we see these quick decisions, or we see a guy like J.J. Watt, take the picture of himself and say, "Source, me." But we know that they met a couple weeks ago on a Friday, and we were all kind of thinking that was when we would get an announcement. And then we really heard nothing going either way. And so thought, okay, well, maybe he's still thinking about playing. Maybe he's just unsure. Give it a little more time. So I like that he did that. It's a very Drew thing to do, to make it about the team more so than him riding away.
And, you bring up J.J. Watt, and it is just, you think about like the last year, Tom Brady, no longer a Patriot. J.J. Watt, no longer a Houston Texan. George Springer, no longer an Astro. James Harden, no longer a Rocket. Russell Westbrook, no. I mean, so many big name players have moved on either to another team or, in Drew Brees' case, out of the game. It's pretty amazing.
This is why I don't buy jerseys. I can't afford a new one every time someone leaves or gets traded or decides they want to go elsewhere.
Well, I know a guy, Shannon, who I'll bet you he has some jerseys. He is in the cockpit driving the Millennium Falcon, as he normally does, for 1200 WOAI. See, I'm like 5 minutes before showtime, Shannon. Jeremy Fouts, the boy wonder, and soothsayer. By the way, on the Ides of March, we will talk to Jeremy at some point. He is the only actual soothsayer that I know. And as you know, it was the soothsayer who said to Julius Caesar, "Beware the Ides of March." So we will ask boy wonder and soothsayer Jeremy Fouts what we should beware of on this Ides of March. But Jeremy walks into the studio like 5 minutes before the show, and he goes, "Do you know about the changes?" I'm like,
no, we do not.
No. I mean, that's usually on a Friday after my shift. The boss will come in and go, "Hey, Chris, do you know about the changes?" No. Well, if you could pack up your desk and meet me in my office and bring your key card. So I go, "No, Jeremy, I don't know about the changes." And he goes, "Well, Dave Ayler's going to come over here from 1200 WOAI and do the show in the mornings. He's going to go like 4 to 6 on OAI and then come over here and then go do something else after." Now, first of all, Dave Ayler is like a mega superstar stud producer engineer in the world of radio. He's been working that morning show with Charlie Parker forever at 1200 WOAI. When I fill in, I work with Dave. And Shannon, what's cool, Dave Ayler is good news, bad news. Good news, he's a huge sports fan. Bad news, he's from St. Louis. So he's like a St. Louis sports. Not that I have any angst with St. Louis. Dave Ayler, how are you this morning? I know. Well, and you usually save my butt over at WOAI because I have no idea what I'm doing when I fill in over there. So you go, "Chris, time for you to talk into the mic." So what's going on? So are you going to be doing this permanently? What's the plan here? Okay. Yeah. Yes. And even though we have like the same equipment and technology, It's like the talk back button's different. I mean, there's different things going on. But Dave, have you met Shannon? Shannon, have you met Dave yet officially?
I'm meeting Dave now. I've met him. I've met Dave as much as I've met you during these COVID times.
Yeah. And for people new to the show, Shannon and I have never been in the same physical space ever. Even though like a long time ago, I worked with Shannon on a Longhorn pregame show up in Austin on AM 1300 The Zone. But yeah, so.
And like, as we know, Mike Taylor taking over Austin this afternoon, beginning today. And he's actually going to be here physically. So I'm going to meet him. Now, we've met before, but we only like in passing and not really as much as coworkers, just like tired people getting coffee in the morning and exchanging grunts. So I think we're going to hang out a little bit today. So yeah, I'm meeting him before I'm meeting either of you.
Yeah, you hang out with Mike Taylor and we haven't hung out yet. So yeah. Yeah, Taylor's, and we're gonna by the and ask him, Shannon. I want to get Taylor on the show this week to just kind of talk about what he'll be doing and for those people who, if that didn't make sense, the Mike Taylor show, which is huge and through the roof in San Antonio and has been #1 forever. And I was actually at another sports talk station once in the afternoon competing against Mike Taylor, and you don't ever want to do that because he totally kicked our butts in the ratings, but. So he's going to be simulcast in Austin and San Antonio beginning this afternoon, AM 1300 The Zone in Austin, ticket $760 in San Antonio. So Shannon, let's get him on the show in the morning if he'll get up this early.
I mean,
later in the week.
What is that in Hawaii time? I think it's our time.
It's like 2 or 3 in the morning.
Yeah, but he'll be here. He's supposed to meet me this morning, so if he gets here early, I may just throw him on camera.
Do it.
See what happens.
Do it. Now, Dave, you are a huge sports fan, and you are so devoted to your St. Louis teams. I know one of the things you did a couple of years ago when the St. Louis Blues went to the Stanley Cup final and won it, or I guess it's finals in hockey. It's fine. Wait. It's NBA finals in the NBA, and the NHL, it's the Stanley Cup final. Thank you. I'm still learning that. So you'd like pre-COVID, it's like, screw it. I work in San Antonio. I'm a St. Louis sports fan. I'm going. So you went and were there for a lot of the action. That's right. Yeah. See, I didn't know you got a credential. I love that. You used your radio connections to go get a credential and be a big shot at the Stanley Cup final. That's cool. Yeah. Oh, yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's very, very cool. Well, good to have you on board, Dave. A little bit later, we will speak with the soothsayer, Mr. Jeremy Fouts, on the Ides of March. It's very poetic. It's very Shakespearean. So that'll be very, very cool. We got so much to talk about, and we will get into it coming up in the next segment. Shannon will tell us what our poll question is. It has something to do with the NCAA tournament, the Super Bowl, the World Series, NBA Finals, and more. We'll get you into the poll question. We'll talk a lot of NCAA tournament. We'll talk Drew Brees. Dak signs the contract. I know that was a big deal last week, but we'll react to that even more. NFL, NBA, Major League Baseball, and more. You can join us. Dial us up on the phone line if you want to be part of the show, 1-800-707-9760. Lots of people already joining us on Facebook Live as we stream live video on AM 1300 The Zone and Ticket 760's Facebook pages. We're with you till 9. Lots of great guests coming up as well. We'll tell you who they are. You're listening to the Chris Duel Show. Woo! John Williams says dead air. So, John Williams, you occasionally say things like that.
Well, so the Jeremy Dave on StreamYard, they control their own mute.
Okay, that's what it is. Okay.
If they've muted them, I can't unmute them. I can only mute them unmute them if I'm the one who muted them to begin with.
Now I get it. Okay. I'll tell them that.
Okay.
So the Facebook people are telling me when I was talking to Dave, that mic was muted in your studio, Dave and Jeremy. So just letting you know. In the words of Lita Ford, it ain't no big thing. Luisa, Jason, Gonzalo, Sam, and John, you were right. I was questioning. You wrote dead air. I was questioning you on that. And now I know what you were talking about. Ralph Balderas, good morning. Thank you, sir. Wes Perkins. Yvonne Yancey McGowan, good morning. Pendejo is in here. I don't say Pendejo's name over the airwaves. Wow, Sam Tobias. I still think Shaka Smart must get Texas all the way to the Final Four in order to save his job. Big 12 championship is good and dandy, but you need to do more. Yeah, I mean, if they lose to Abilene Christian, adios muchacho. But, you know, and Shannon says they're not getting to the Sweet 16. So I think if he lost in the second round, trouble. Certainly in the first round. I think if he loses in the first round as a 3 seed, gonzo, end of story. But I think if he gets them to the Sweet 16, and that, again, I'm sure we'll talk about that. And, you know, not only today, but throughout. It's a big storyline. Pendejo, just call me MAGA. I was listening to satellite radio on the way in this morning. 49% of Republican men will not get the vaccine. That is jaw-dropping to me. And apparently, going deeper into that poll, the reason is President Trump. Is they're big Trump supporters, so they don't believe in the vaccine. They don't believe in the virus, so they're not going to get the vaccine. Yet, President Donald Trump and First Lady Melania Trump in January got the vaccine. A, they both got the virus, and B, in January, they got the vaccine. So if you're paying close attention, 49%ers, coronavirus deniers, science deniers, medicine deniers, mathematics deniers, your fearless leader got the vaccine and he got the virus. Stunning to me. Pendejo says they won't get it because it would admit that the virus was not a hoax. Hope none of them get it. However, mathematics tells me a significant percentage of them will get it. Yeah, I heard that story. There was some man, I think it was in the South, could have been the Midwest, who was like 50-something, going on Facebook, it's a hoax. Coronavirus is a hoax. And when he was on his deathbed, a day or two before he died, he was saying to the nurses, I really thought it was a hoax. Science! She blinded me with science! I posted this on Facebook over the weekend just because I got so much blowback. I posted a photo of myself with a little meme that says, I choose to wear a mask. And I was just saying, I choose to wear a mask. I disagree with what the governor did. I didn't write this, but this is why I did the thing. I think you could have still opened up Texas completely like he did, if that's what he wanted to do. I think you could have done both. You could have said, all right, we're going to open up Texas, but people really wear a mask and social distance to the best of your ability, but we're going to open it. He could have done both. Chose not to. Ended the mask mandate and then sued the city of Austin for believing in science and medicine and mathematics and the overwhelming majority of doctors and epidemiologists. So I just posted this little thing that said, I choose to wear a mask. And God, I had so many people like, yeah, but the implication there is you're saying we have to all wear a mask. I said, no, I just said I choose to wear a mask. And I mean, it's amazing. People who are your quote unquote Facebook friends and people who I never hear from, you do something as egregious as post something that says, I choose to wear a mask, and they come out of the woodwork frothing at the mouth, angry. Hector, what kind of a deal do you think the Spurs can get for LaMarcus Aldridge? Hector, I predict the Spurs will get nothing for LaMarcus Aldridge. I hope I'm wrong, but they've both kind of telegraphed that if they can't get a deal, they're going to buy out LaMarcus and allow him to walk. So I've already heard that there's some NBA teams going, we're interested, but we understand he's going to be a free agent, so we can kind of get him for nothing as far as giving the Spurs something for him. Now, you did hear, him even saying, LaMarcus, a year or two ago, excuse me, that he wanted to finish out his career back with Damian Lillard in Portland. If that's what LaMarcus really wants, and if Portland wants him, and why wouldn't they? He'd still be an asset, and they could get him for real cheap, especially if the Spurs bought him out. Why would LaMarcus work to facilitate a deal with the Spurs to another team? I think the Spurs are doing the right thing for LaMarcus. When he came here as a free agent in good faith, and the Spurs were acting in good faith, it looked like the sky was the limit. He played with Tim for a year or two. We had Kawhi. I saw it showed up on one of my apps, Time Hop or something, a team photo from like LaMarcus's first year. And you look at LaMarcus, Tim, Tony, Manu, Patty Mills in his prime. There were a lot of really great players on that team. Boris Diaw. So Hector, I don't think, he is 35 years old. So I don't think, and at 35, he's not a top of the line, but he's still a very good veteran who can give you 25, 30 solid minutes coming off the bench or as a starter with limited minutes. And if he wants to go to, if I'm Portland, I grab him, add him to your arsenal. But yeah, Hector, I hope I'm wrong. I don't think the Spurs are getting anything for him. But anyway, to finish my thought, part of what I posted was, because I'm an old guy, I was alive and conscious watching Neil Armstrong on television set foot on the moon in 1969. I was an 8-year-old kid, but I was like totally into it. And that was an America that embraced science and mathematics and medicine. That was a part of the Apollo mission. The aerospace medicine headquarters was here at Brooks Air Force Base in San Antonio. And now we live in an America where anti-science is kind of a thing for a significant number of people. Stunning to me. And a guy like Kyrie Irving says the earth is flat. And a lot of people said we didn't go to the moon. That was a hoax. Chris Duel Show, along with Shannon Salty Sweeney on the Ides of March, March 15th, 2021. Welcome in Dave Ayler, along with Boy Wonder and soothsayer Jeremy Fouts are your soundscape stylists as we sift through all the big stories from Drew Brees' retirement yesterday to Texas winning the Big 12 championship, earning the number 3 seed in the East region of the NCAA men's tournament. Alabama is in that region. We'll talk more about that. First, though, we have a poll question. Shannon, are you privy to, do you have in front of you today's poll question?
Yes, sir. So we're asking, after the Super Bowl, what is the best sports championship event right now leading the way? Of course, with the times we're in the NCAA tournament. It's been 2 years.
True.
We've had one, followed by the NBA Finals, the World Series, both tied at 20%, and other at 10%. So if you vote other, make sure to tell us because we'd love to know. My personal vote, NCAA tournament. There's nothing like those first few days where games on games on games.
Shannon, I am with you on this. I believe it's, as much as I love the NBA Finals, and I think they're cool, as much as I love the World Series and all of its tradition dating back.
Around and wait all day.
Yeah, right. But there's a certain magic about the NCAA tournament. And part of it is because of, I mean, once your team gets knocked out, and I went to USC and they're in it, so I'll be a big USC fan, or if you're a Texas fan or a Baylor fan or a Texas Tech fan, whatever you are, that's great. But then in addition to your team, it's the whole Cinderella thing. It's and I got to tell you, Shannon, for Gonzaga, I mean, I remember when Gonzaga was just kind of a new kid on the block, and they still, to this day, they're not a blue blood. They're not a Kentucky. They're not a Duke. They're not a Kansas. They're Gonzaga. They're a little school in Washington, and for them to be undefeated, the last time an undefeated team won the tournament, Shannon, you, Jeremy, and the majority of our audience was not born yet. In your lifetimes, it hasn't happened since 1976. Dave Ayler and I were alive. Get off our lawns. But I mean, it's so for if you would have said to me 3 years ago, an undefeated team is going to win the NCAA tournament in 2021, I wouldn't have said Gonzaga. I would have said Kentucky, Memphis, Duke, Kansas, hopefully Texas. It wouldn't have been Gonzaga, but a lot of people truly believe they are going to do this.
Looking at the bracket right now, which I think I'm getting older because I can barely read these names with all 64 of them on this sheet of paper.
Welcome to my world.
They look pretty favorable as far as getting out of that West region with where Gonzaga stands. But does that make them more likable? Because typically we love to see a huge upset, like a 16 beating a 1 or whoever it may be. But with them being undefeated coming into this, do we want to see them go all the way?
I don't. I mean,
them worth fighting for?
Yeah, it's weird. In 2015, Kentucky was 38-0 and lost by a bucket in the championship game. So, I mean, if it's Kentucky coming in at 38-0, I don't want them. Gonzaga, I still kind of like them, but you ask a great question. Now that they're undefeated, it's like now they're elite. Now they're the favorite. Now they're the team to knock off the mountain. And in Texas, a lot of people would argue Baylor is the best team, but obviously there are Longhorn partisans who say, hey, we won the Big 12 tournament. Texas Tech is pretty damn formidable as well. So I personal preference, I don't want Gonzaga to win this because it seems like a foregone conclusion, and I don't want this to end the way everybody predicts it or the majority of analysts predict it to end. I'd rather see somebody else take it.
Yeah, that's like predicting back in the day the Patriots were going to go to the Super Bowl.
Boom.
Like, okay, probably, but that's not what we want to see here.
We'd rather see something else.
Now, how do you feel about a Duke-less and Kentucky-less tournament?
It's about damn time. And I heard some people on national radio this morning listening on satellite going, well, the tournament's it's not the same without Kentucky. Shut up. I mean, it's about time. Please. What about you? Please give me new blood. I mean, that is the good news about Gonzaga being undefeated.
Like the college football playoff.
Yeah.
It's the same. Like, that's the biggest reason everybody wants expansion. Just mix it up a little bit.
And please, somebody beat Alabama. Yeah, every year.
Nick Saban saying last week he's not even a fan of the playoff because
of course not.
What it does to the other bowl games. It dilutes the meaning and the greatness behind the other bowl games because they're like,
he's a liar.
It's a great bowl game, but it's not. We're not in the playoff.
Nick Saban is a liar.
Semi-final game, which is still technically like a bowl game. You don't feel as great about winning. You don't celebrate that win as much as you would because then you got to turn around and prep for the final. So
Nick Saban is only
Alabama or Duke or Kentucky. I don't want to hear your opinion.
Nick Saban is only saying that because it is self-serving. A 4-team playoff is better for Nick Saban and Alabama
like, I don't want to
than an 8-team.
Yeah, then it just makes even more bowl games matter less.
He'll have to play one more round if they go to 8. Dave Ayler, the poll question. After the Super Bowl, I think most of us would agree the Super Bowl is the greatest sports championship on the face of this earth. After the Super Bowl, would it be the NCAA tournament? Would it be the NBA Finals? Would it be the World Series? I know you're a big NHL final fan, a St. Louis Blues fan. What do you rank as the second best championship, or do you put any of these above the Super Bowl?
Being from St. Louis, you'd think it'd be baseball that, World Series would be my number 2, but I think the NCAA tournament would be number 2. I probably put World Series at 3 for me. But I think you're right. I think the NCAA tournament is definitely number 2.
And there is, I mean, you got the whole nation filling out brackets. You've got at different offices and schools, you've got people who are not even into.
Yeah, there's people skipping work.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, how about this year? A lot of times the tournament starts on a Thursday. This year it's starting on a Friday. We get all those first 64 teams going. So it's almost like we should have a 4-day weekend.
I agree.
I'm all for that. Let's start it now.
Yeah.
Take the whole week off.
Now, technically, you've got the first 4 going on Thursday, but I know that's not the same as opening day when you have games tipping off at like 10:59 a.m. So, but yeah, it is. And you brought this up as well, Shannon. We haven't done this in 2 years. I mean, during coronavirus year 2020 and into 2021, we didn't miss a Super Bowl. We didn't miss a World Series. We didn't miss an NBA Finals, but we did miss the NCAA tournament. So it's been
all the way there, and then
it's been a long time. It's been 2 years. And again, though, and part of another reason why I believe this is the second best sports championship event to the Super Bowl. I mean, it's almost proverbial. I mean, you always have, when people fill out their brackets, there's always this person who knows nothing about sports who says, well, I think a Wildcat would beat a Bear, so I'm going to pick the Wildcats.
Jeremy, without calling out Jeremy, because it sounds like you're calling out Jeremy.
I'm calling him out in a good way because it's those people, when you have like an office bracket pool, it's those people who always win.
I have a cousin who works here in town, and her office always does a bracket. So she just asked me for mine because she doesn't want to fill it out. And this particular year, I did okay in ours, but then she texted me. She's like, I won. I said, we did. What did we win? Because I filled yours out. You just copied mine. I won in on what we won.
Very nice. Did you find out what you won?
I think it was like cookies or something.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, I'm
Cookies.
all for, but if I'm not around to eat them, I guess I can't.
Yeah.
Get
there you go.
That.
So they're telling me on Facebook Live that Dave Ayler and Jeremy's mic is still not on. We'll work on that. So we're asking you to read lips on Facebook Live. That's what we're doing. So let's see what else. So your number 1 seeds are Gonzaga, Baylor, Illinois, and Michigan. 2 things. Not only have we not had an undefeated team win the tournament since 1976, that was Indiana under Bobby Knight. Also going into that tournament, Rutgers was also undefeated in 76, but obviously Indiana won that one. We also have not had a repeat champion since Florida did it in 06 and 07. Virginia, there was no tournament last year, so Virginia technically won the last time we had a tournament in 2019. They are in the tournament. However, Virginia has had a lot of players out lately with COVID-19. It's even delaying their arrival in Indianapolis. They expect to play, but it's delaying their arrival, which that raises a couple of things for me. First of all, Shannon, Florida, the last team to win back-to-back championships in 06 and 07. I do believe Matt Bonner was on those Florida teams. And while I was away, I understand you guys had Matt Bonner on the show. How was Matt Bonner last week?
He was great. He's got a really cool podcast, Spurslandia, which, of course, right here on the iHeartRadio app. If you want to give it a listen, and as someone who's a Mavs fan, I mean, you hear Spurslandia and you think, oh, that's all Spurs all the time, but it's not. He's getting to know a lot of people. It's very local, right? He spoke to a really great gamer who makes millions and millions off of playing games, and then local musicians. So it's a great little podcast. He's a cool dude.
He's way cool. I love Matt Bonner. So the last team, and that dude was on those teams, was Florida. The other thing that strikes me as we talk about that, Shannon, and Virginia having COVID issues, and we know certainly Kansas had the COVID issues that kept them out of the Big 12 tournament and the opportunity to play Texas in the semifinal. And I do understand, Shannon, we've got like 4 teams in waiting that in the first 2 rounds of the tournament, if any team can't go because they have COVID issues, then one of those teams will step in and get an opportunity. Do you think, Shannon, that we will have a COVID issue and maybe a team's going to have to alter its plans or drop out due to COVID?
I really hope not. I thought they were just going to move on and close the round out, and that would be like Texas against Kansas in the tournament, that you just, sorry. I mean, they also said you only need 5 to play, which is true. That'd be awful to only have 5 players play and have to go through an entire tournament or even in just one game.
Yeah.
5 on your roster. And what are those teams in waiting doing? I mean, they have to literally be in waiting in quarantine in one of those hotels.
And practicing, right? I would imagine.
Waiting. And then you also feel bad because you're probably sitting there like, oh, they've only got 5 players. Hopefully one more of them will go down.
Yeah, you're pulling for COVID havoc.
Come on, Rona. Get us to the dance.
Wonder if there'll be a Corona, mascot, like a Rona mascot in Indianapolis. Green virus mascot.
Yeah, and what about Rick Pitino?
Yeah,
Did you ever think we'd see him back in the tournament?
And who was he with? It's Iona. That's right. And I think he's something like, this is like his 3rd different team, maybe his 4th that he's taken to the tournament. I think I heard that's some kind of a record.
It's nice that he has a job, but he shouldn't be allowed to get back into the tournament.
What was his major scandal? I'm sure. I think it was like recruiting, and of course, as always, an assistant coach did it, and Rick says I knew nothing about it. But wasn't there like a woman thing going on as well? Wasn't there like female transgressions?
This thing, and some escort scandals.
I can't keep up with my Rick Pitino scandals. Oh, it's a Google
championship in 2013 vacated.
Reminds me of my alma mater, USC, vacating a national championship. Thank you. Bring up that trauma. So, all right, coming up, Drew Brees retires. Where does Austin Westlake's Drew Brees rank in the pantheon of all-time greats? Shannon, he does have the all-time NFL yardage record. We always talk about Tom Brady being the GOAT, and
what they're trading with right now. They go back and forth. Where's that touchdown passes?
I'm not sure, but I'll bet you. Whatever Drew has, I'll bet you. And Brady just signed a 4-year extension. Knowing Brady, whatever Drew Brees has, Brady is probably licking his chops, saying, "I'm going to get that. That's my goal. I'm going to go get that."
That's when I'll retire. He's been waiting for Drew Brees to leave so he can go and secure all of those number 1 spots and carry on with himself.
So coming up, our official Chris Duel Show New Orleans Saints correspondent, Dylan Emery, who is a Saints fan, a Saints freak, a Saints partisan, but we still like him. His thoughts on the Drew Brees retirement. And are the Saints going to go with Jameis Winston as their quarterback of the future, or Taysom Hill, or is something else going to happen? There is a red rifle out there. I'm just saying. Russell, that would be Armageddon. That's a great. We'll talk about that. Is Russell Wilson going to be a New Orleans Saint? That and a lot more. Dave Ayler, Boy Wonder, Soothsayer, Jeremy Fouch, your soundscape stylist. Lots more coming. Sports update at the top of the hour. Don't go anywhere. You're listening to the Chris Duel Show. Woo! Little Who on the way out. Wes Perkins says Super Bowl, NCAA tournament, college football championship. Yeah, when Dave talks, since his mic is not on, I will try to do a better job of bringing up the volume here so you can hear him. So my apologies on that. That hasn't been an issue lately. Plus, I just got back from vacation, so I'm a little bit out of practice. All right, I'm going to get more coffee. Okay, I'm getting coffee. Oh, Jason, Matt Bonner was 99 to 03. My bad. I will correct the record, Jason. See, this is why we have you on Facebook Live. You are fact checkers. You are pseudo producers. Man, Matt Bonner's old. Get off his lawn. Jason Garcia, I will credit you for busting my error. We should give out prizes. When I say something stupid and incorrect and you catch it, you should get a little trophy or certificate of some kind. Sorry, Governor Abbott, I'm going out in the studio. I'm going to wear my mask because I believe in science and medicine and math and epidemiologists and doctors. Sorry.
Jason, I am so basic. I just like a plain and simple chocolate iced. Doesn't mean I won't try a fancier donut, but in a pinch, it's always great. I haven't asked for a donut, though, in my drive-thru in a long time because the last time I asked at 5 in the morning, they said they didn't have any. And I'm too embarrassed to be denied a donut again from a donut establishment. Wes, I don't know. I don't think so. The issue is that UT always wants to win. No fan is ever sitting here saying, I hope we lose or tank because we want to get rid of somebody. So we're in a bit of a catch-22 situation with this one. But like we saw with Herman, who finished out the season and went on to win a bowl game, UT's totally fine with taking the rug out from under somebody. Elite 8, possibly Final 4. I don't see them getting past the round of 32. They've already won 4 straight. You want them to win that many in a row? Is everyone going to get knocked out with COVID? I mean, what's going to happen? That seems impossible. Jason, I like the coffee mug idea. I don't know that it's in the budget, but I like the idea.
Championship. I was telling most of the people listening to sports talk, we're not alive.
Right.
When there's been an undefeated champion.
Yeah.
So, and Shannon brought up a great question. Kentucky was 38-0 in 2015 going in and then lost in the final.
Right.
And obviously, if Kentucky's 38-0, you don't want them to win it because they're Kentucky. Gonzaga used to kind of be a little Cinderella favorite.
Right.
Now that they're undefeated, do we want Gonzaga to win it, or do we like hate them now because they're undefeated and you want somebody else to win it? I don't
have a problem with Gonzaga.
Yeah, I like them a lot more than I like Kentucky, Kansas, Duke, your normal suspects. But now that so many analysts say, oh, they're going to win it, it's like Shannon said that's like when the Patriots had Brady every year. They'd say the Patriots were going to win the Super Bowl. Yeah. You would rather they didn't.
Yeah. I think Gonzaga's going to be the only number one seed to get to the Final Four.
Wow.
I don't think Baylor's getting there. I don't think
okay.
Getting there, and I don't think Illinois is getting there.
Wow. Okay.
And just what the sports world needs. Alabama coming on as a basketball.
Yes, and we could have Alabama, Texas in that East region.
Yeah.
That'd be cool.
I think that's what's going to happen.
That'd be a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Talking with Charlie Parker, for those of you scoring at home. All right, Jason, Lyle and Hahn used to give away coffee mugs when they had incorrect info updated by listeners at one. Jason, I got to work on that, man. I like that. We should have a prize.
We have a logo now, so we have something that could be put on mugs.
See, there you go. All right, we'll work on that. We'll either do it with
or like a bumper sticker,
promotion staff, or we'll just do it ourselves. But yeah, there should be something. Yeah, there was a guy, he's still here at another radio station, Shannon. His name is Jack Riccardi. And back in the day when I used to work there, he used to have like a monthly Riccardi party, like a lunch at a restaurant, and you had to get invited to go. It'd be cool if we did either monthly or bi-monthly, like post-COVID or whatever, at a bar or a sports bar or something, like a gathering, and maybe that would be. You have to earn the right to come. And of course, we buy your drinks and your food. So, I don't know. We'll work on it. Do we have Dylan? Is he ready to go? Cool. Thanks, sir. I will first give Jason Garcia props for busting my incorrect assertion. And I got to work in Jeremy here. I know we're pretty loaded now on each half hour. Jeremy is the soothsayer. Maybe I'll get him in this segment. It is the Ides of March. I was just saying on Facebook Live before we came back, the soothsayer, the only soothsayer I know, Jeremy Fouts, is in the control room along with Dave Ayler. So we do have to hear from the soothsayer before this show is over, see what we should beware of on the Ides of March, and we will do that. One thing to beware of, by the way, it's the Chris Duel Show, along with Shannon Salty Sweeney in a moment, our go-to guy on all things New Orleans Saints, the blue-collar sports dad, Dylan Emery. But before that, Shannon, one thing to beware of is false information. Some idiot on the radio a few minutes ago who actually gets paid to talk on the radio. Some idiot said that when Florida went back-to-back and won back-to-back championships in the NCAA tournament in 06 and 07, that Matt Bonner was on that team. I don't know what kind of an idiot would say that into a microphone on the radio. I said that. I don't know. I'm still.
He just looks so young. It's hard.
I know. If I would have thought about it, all right, if Matt Bonner was 22 and 07, then but I didn't do the math.
See, it's the math that got you there.
Yeah,
it's not your memory. It's
Thank
math.
you. It's math. It's fuzzy math. So one of the reasons we love Facebook Live is there's lots of people in there to fact check when I say something wrong, bogus, or stupid. And Jason Garcia, congratulations on Facebook, says Matt Bonner was not, in all caps, not a part of the 07, 06 Florida teams. Corey Brewer, Al Hartford, Joakim Noah, Maurice Spanks, notable NBA players from Florida. Matt Bonner was there from 1999 to 03. So, Shannon, my bad. Your buddy, Matt Bonner, was not there for the Florida teams that went back-to-back championships in 06 and 07. So, but it does bring up, Shannon, we need to come up with an award when somebody fact checks us, mainly me, because you don't normally screw things up like I do. When somebody fact checks us, we need a prize of some kind to give away.
Jason has this mug idea. I kind of like it.
All right.
I mean, we're both in here drinking our coffee every morning. We could get a
Yes.
sponsor. It'd be a visual plug for them every day.
We'll get our own damn mugs. That way, whenever
Our
we
logo
guzzle
one
coffee,
side.
yes.
Sponsor logo on the other.
And on the underside of the mug, it'll say, "Get off my lawn," or "In Pop We
No,
Trust."
that's what it says in the inside when you're done drinking your coffee.
When you finish it. So you add
Like
your
a little
coffee.
surprise.
Get the hell off my lawn. All right. I like it. We'll work on that. So, Jason, you are retroactively, once we get the mugs, the first winner of a Chris and Shannon mug. We'll work on it. We just don't have it yet. We just thought about it because you busted me for being wrong. Okay. The big news yesterday, and how dare he on Selection Sunday, Drew Brees, through his kids, announces he is retiring from the National Football League. The biggest New Orleans Saints fan I know is Dylan Emery, the blue-collar sports dad, friend of the show, his show on Ticket 760 on Sunday mornings, along with Terrell Huff. Dylan is all about the New Orleans Saints. He's all about Drew Brees. He is on the phone line right now. Dylan Emery, how are you this morning? We're good.
Dylan, when does the sorrow and sadness, the fact that Drew is leaving New Orleans, turn into a giant New Orleans celebration?
Good morning, Beth.
Arm strength was kind of weakening and everything else like that. I think it was time for him to go. But it's a sigh of relief, guys. I mean, it's 20 seasons of a guy, 15 in New Orleans, where he turned that city around. I mean, exactly 15 years to the date of coming in, he walks away. There should be a statue outside. There should be parades daily for him between now and kickoff, celebrating what he did for that city and with his Super Bowl championship, and being the all-time passing yards leader, which, Shannon, you said earlier, Tom Brady's probably licking his chops, and he's ready to take that record. And everybody that doesn't like Tom Brady, you're welcome, because Drew Brees retiring. Now Tom can take his records, and Tom can ride off into the sunset too.
Dylan Emery, the blue-collar sports dad and huge New Orleans Saints fan with us. And Dylan, when you said it, it makes so much. If there is a Nick Foles statue in front of the stadium in Philadelphia, there needs to be a 40-foot Drew Brees statue in front of the Superdome. You're so right. I mean, in the aftermath of Hurricane Katrina, and in a weird way, San Antonio played a little role in that, because the Saints, in the year of Hurricane Katrina 2005, had to play the remainder of their football games at the Alamo Dome, which they did. But, Drew Brees and his wife really devoted so much of their lives to the city of New Orleans and rising and raising those people back from the ashes, from the awful tragedy of Hurricane Katrina. I don't think I can't think of, and I know J.J. Watt did a lot for Houston after a hurricane, but I can't think of another player, Dylan, who became kind of the spiritual leader, not only of the team, but of the city, like Drew Brees did in New Orleans.
It was a guy that, the NFL, let's remember, San Diego was kind of done with him. When he was coming over to New Orleans, it was like, all right, you can take him, that's fine. And New Orleans had nothing. We didn't even know if New Orleans was going to have the team. We thought New Orleans Saints were going to leave. Remember all those talks? Maybe they should go to San Antonio. Maybe they should go somewhere else. I mean, they started from literally the bottom, and they went to the top, and they got the Super Bowl, and they've been consistent, year in and year out. And even next season, as they push through, it's going to be different not seeing number 9 back there. And I can tell you, as a good fan of this team, I don't know who's going to be back there.
That is rough, especially as a Cowboys fan who we know who our guy is going to be, Dylan. So it's not a big deal to us anymore. But as we know you're a fan, but as the media guy that you are, do you think this is good timing? Do you think it's too soon? Do you think maybe he should have hung it up a couple years ago? Because that's what a lot of people seem to think after the year he had last year.
So when you see that last year and you see the way that it went out and you see just the way he goes out against Tom Brady, but last year was a good year for the Saints and for him. I mean, the quarterback system that Sean Payton puts together for any quarterback out there, Russell Wilson, if you're listening, to save yourself a couple seasons with having Hill, with having Winston, and as a fan and as a big guy, I'm real shaky with Winston to be the guy back there or Hill, and we'll see. I think Drew could have probably played one more season, Shannon, to be quite honest with you. But I just think that the timing, the 11 broken ribs, I mean, just constantly getting injured these last couple seasons, I think his wife kind of probably stepped in and said, hey, you see these 4 kids right here? They would love to see their dad for a while. So why don't you go ahead and hang it up? You had a great career, Drew.
He is Dylan Emery, the blue-collar sports dad, and our go-to guy on all things New Orleans Saints. You brought up Russell Wilson, Dylan, earlier in the previous segment. Shannon brought up Russell Wilson. There are people saying that the relationship between Pete Carroll and Russell Wilson is broken. We've seen Pete Carroll, Richard Sherman and Earl Thomas were 2 mainstays of the Legion of Boom. And when you no longer get along with Pete Carroll, and I obviously love the guy for what he did for USC, but Russell Wilson is not happy. The Seahawks may be willing to part with Russell Wilson. The Saints are a team with a lot of talent and a lot of assets, and I would believe that if they want to make a run at Russell Wilson, they might be able to do a deal. How excited are you, and how much credence do you put into these Russell Wilson theories that he might be a target of the New Orleans Saints?
I'm excited, but I'm also sad. As a Drew Brees fan myself, I mean, it's hard to kind of, one day you're like, man, it sucks that he's leaving, and then this morning it's like, well, Russell Wilson might be out there. I mean, you kind of move on real quick, like from one girlfriend to the next, but Russell Wilson would be a good fit. He's a guy that can get out of the pocket a little bit more, but obviously we know that they've had pocket issues in Seattle. But he's got the arm strength, he's got the accuracy. The Saints have been moving and cutting a lot of players, so everybody in the NFL has. If they're going to make one move, that roster is legit, guys. When you look at that roster with Kamara in the backfield, Thomas running his routes, you've got receivers that he can throw to. It's a good roster. You're only losing Drew Brees. If you can put in another quarterback like Russell Wilson, the Saints are still on top. Tom Brady's going to be scared just a little bit because that's his division. But it depends on what they can do. And I really want the Saints to go after a quarterback, either get Russell or get Jones from Alabama in the draft.
Is there anybody else in free agency you're hoping the Saints can pick up? We've seen a lot of teams go ahead and release players just in the last couple of days. And, the Saints, they're arguably their biggest competition is going to be, once again, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who seem to still have a lot of their key pieces and they're going to be in a great spot coming into next season, especially after that Super Bowl win.
The other spots, no. I mean, the quarterback situation has got to be the biggest question mark now in New Orleans. I think a lot of experts out there today will say New Orleans will suffer if they don't have a quarterback, if they don't have that leader back there. And, I think all eyes could be on Russell, but Sean Payton is a quarterback guru. He just knows how to work with quarterbacks. He knows how to make them work. He's made Hill into something to where nobody really knew who Hill was. Sean Payton brings him into the system, makes him work the way he does. And so whatever Sean Payton does, it's kind of like with Pop. I trust Sean Payton's next move for the New Orleans Saints.
He is Dylan Emery, the blue-collar sports dad, with us on the Chris Duel show. I'm seeing Jason Paniagua on Facebook Live say Marcus Mariota to the Saints. If you can't get Russell Wilson, if you can't get Mac Jones in the draft, and I heard Colin Cowherd saying, don't be too high on the Alabama quarterback. Would you take a Marcus Mariota? Do you think there might be I mean, Mariota kind of tied with Jameis Winston as a guy who coming in was expected to do great things at quarterback in the National Football League and is now kind of a reclamation project. Do you think, and you just said Sean Payton is a quarterback guru, could he do magic with Marcus Mariota, or might the guy be right there named Jameis Winston and maybe, in his second year in Sean Payton's system might be able to do some big things?
Look at that kind of option, and you look at Mariota, you look at Winston. For me, I'd go with Winston on this end. He's been in there for a season. I'll tell you, Winston has that biggest star for the 30 interception season, doesn't he? I mean, because everybody just goes back and looks at that. But Winston knows how to win. He knew how to do it in college. He's a winner. I mean, and it's hard to say that he's a winner because when people see that, they go, well, no, he failed in Tampa. He failed in Tampa, but could he fail in New Orleans? I don't know. Mariota was a guy that had high hopes as well, and he's another guy that, kind of been lingering in the NFL. And I don't know. I mean, it's such a toss-up now. It's so interesting now that Drew has kind of stepped away. Even as fans, we knew that when he looks back in the tunnel against Tampa Bay, in that loss, that was the last look that Drew looked into that arena. So as fans today, we get to kind of play the quarterback shuffle here in New Orleans.
Dylan Emery, the Blue Collar Sports Dad. And Dylan, I felt that too when I saw after that loss to Tampa, walking off that field, looking back at that field one more time. And it reminded me of times when it was like my last day of college, or, my last day at a job, and you're walking out with your stuff and you kind of look back one more time. Or if you sell a house and you move out of a place, you look back. I really got that vibe when he did that. From his perspective, and you know this better than anybody else because you suffered through them, the Saints have been so close for like the last 3 or 4 years, most notably that god-awful call by the refs against the Rams that kept the Saints from going to the Super Bowl. And I look at just last year, Tom Brady, Drew Brees beat Tom Brady twice, and you look at that playoff loss to Tom Brady and the Buccaneers, barring a couple of second-half turnovers, New Orleans was on a pace and on a path to win that football game. Is it I think tragic is too much of a word, but is it a sad, somber ride into the sunset for Drew Brees because of what could have been over the last 4 seasons when you would have expected the Saints to get at least maybe one Super Bowl ring over the last 4 years?
I think it was sad. I mean, when you look at it and you watch this and you see him leave in a crowd full of just 3,000 people. 3,000 people got to see him play his last game, not a packed Superdome, and he didn't get to ride off into the sunset. You're right. I mean, year after year, these past 3 years have just been heartbreak after heartbreak, especially with Minnesota, the Los Angeles Rams getting the pass interference, Tom Brady coming back in the second half, him throwing 3 interceptions and then getting 3 touchdowns. It was just sorrow, and then when he looked back, it looked like he had that look, Chris, of, I wish I could have done more for you, city of New Orleans, but this is all I had. It's been fun. I'm out.
So we know Drew's never going to put on the number 9 jersey again, but he's clearly not going to go away from the game of football. What's your ideal scenario to see Drew and what he does next?
Take over Chris Collinsworth's job on NBC and start calling some games for NBC. I mean, I'd love to see him as a play-by-play guy. You saw, like, with the transition of Tony Romo, going into the broadcasting booth. I want to see Drew kind of give his insight of the game because he's been there for so long. I'd love to see him in broadcasting. I don't know if he'll do any kind of coaching or anything else like that, but seeing Drew behind the broadcast booth, that would be really fun, and it'd be more exciting than a couple of the other guys that are calling the games on Sunday nights.
If he takes over for Chris Collinsworth, I need him to continue the chair slide, though, because that is pretty epic and it's very interesting. And Dylan, I have one to pick with you because I thought I was being fun last Thursday, using the Zone's TikTok and then posting it on Twitter, a little throwback Thursday. One of the greatest calls of all time, the Fox Sports broadcast call of the 2018 Texas OU game. Dicker the kicker, ice water in his veins. And you, the Sooners fan, then posted a GIF of a Sooner making fun of Tom Herman at the Big 12 championship game later that year, which, of course, the Sooners won because they just love winning themselves some Big 12 football championships. But I don't think we've talked to you since Sark has taken over for Texas and has got his staff in place, and he's really gotten things going. As a Sooners fan, how are you feeling about Sark and Texas at this moment?
I get out a little early here, so between 25 and 26 probably.
Texas to be good. I want Texas to get back to where they need to be. These should be Big 12 championships between Texas and OU every year. Everybody else in the Big 12 can try to play catch up, and Texas has got to get that consistency. I think with Sark coming in, I think this is a great opportunity for Texas to get back to where they need to be. I mean, it's going to be a fun ride. I don't know what to tell you in the first season. I said, buckle up, see what it does, see how you do. And I would love to see Texas be in the top 10. I would love to see Texas and OU get a chance to both be into the college football playoff. Texas and OU can make Big 12 look like the SEC in the playoffs, not as far as a conference, but in the playoff system. If you have a one-loss Texas team or a one-loss Oklahoma team, because the one loss happened between Texas and OU, you're going to have some exciting football, and you're going to make the Big 12 relevant again.
Finally, Dylan Emery, it is tournament week, NCAA tournament. Gonzaga, undefeated. Nobody has gone undefeated and won the tournament since Indiana did it in 1976. What's your gut feeling about the tournament, and do you have a dark horse or any team that you are pulling for other than Oklahoma in the tournament?
I think Oklahoma will probably go out in round one against Missouri. They're just kind of fading at the wrong time. And I was proud, and I have to say this, Shannon, this is for you. Congratulations to the Texas Longhorns for winning the Big 12.
Woo!
That's really big for them, especially for Shaka. I think there was a lot of emotion there when he got a chance to do that and win. I hope Texas does have a good run. I think the Big 12 has plenty of good teams in there. But my dark horse really is kind of the University of Houston. I know they're a 2 seed. Nobody really saw them. But it is COVID, so I don't know what's going to happen. So if you were to give me a Final Four, I don't know yet. I'll go with Houston and be in there for sure. And, I think Texas, I hope Texas can actually make it into, the Sweet 16. It's unique. Everybody's in Indianapolis. It's a one-stop shop. The Big Ten looks scary, of course. But, if I were to pick a winner, I can't pick Gonzaga because Gonzaga always gets that number 1 seed, and they usually disappoint everybody. But I like Houston, and, maybe there's an upset here. I'm going to tell you the upset real quick. I think maybe Alabama loses to Iona because Rick Pitino knows how to beat Alabama.
Wow, that's a great pick. I love your Houston call, too, and you're right. Everybody's talking about Baylor. We obviously talk a lot about Texas. Texas Tech's making some noise. Not a lot of people talking about Houston. That's a great, great call. Dylan Emery, his show, the Blue Collar Sports Dad Show, along with Terrell Huff in San Antonio, Sunday mornings, 10 a.m. to noon. Even if you're not in San Antonio, you can catch it on the iHeartRadio app. Dylan is on Twitter at BC Sports Dad, and a great Facebook page as well. A lot of interaction and live video. Blue Collar Sports Dad on Facebook. Dylan Emery, always outstanding, sir. Thanks for taking the time.
Anytime, guys, and as always, go Spurs, go.
Go Spurs, go. You got to love that man. Coming up, Shannon's Salty Shakedown. Also, this day in sports history, sports birthdays, and more. And before we're done, on the Ides of March, the only soothsayer I know, Jeremy Fouts, will tell us what we should beware of on the Ides of March. We're with you till 9. You're listening to the Chris Duel Show. I need coffee. No, I don't need coffee. I need water. I'm overdoing the coffee. Beth Settle, good morning.
No.
So, Jeremy, I'm assuming that you've got Dave down on sports history and then birthdays and then Salty Shakedown as far as the beds. Let's see.
Just checking, but does this mic work?
I heard that. let's do that. I'll be back.
Morning, Carl. Sam, I think most of their help is going to come from the draft this year. Cowboys are tight on money to get any big names in free agency.
Sam Tobias, who else gets signed by the Dallas Cowboys to help Dak Prescott out? Good question.
Hey, Chris.
Yes, sir.
We got Bieber coming back to Shannon. What's on the Shannon?
Ah, okay. Shannon requested Bieber.
I've got the
Little
favor.
Who's a big Longhorn basketball fan, as we know from that photo.
Oh, yeah, but that was during his, I'm drag racing and doing drugs days.
Yeah, that showed up on my Time Hop app because I had put that out with the question mark Hook'em Bieber. It was just such a weird photo.
Yeah.
With Rick Barnes. What did Steph Curry? Steph Curry's birthday was yesterday, and he apparently went off. He had something. He had a big night for the Warriors. They beat the Jazz. Where is that? Curry had 32 points on his 32nd birthday. Wow.
So, Chris, I'm looking at the Mayhem, the basketball Mayhem.
Yes.
And I'll send an email to confirm with Callie. But we can create a VIP group within there so that when people enter, they can say, I want to enter with.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Or Mike Taylor show or just Central Texas,
Okay.
And I know she's out, but I'll go ahead and email because I may just see if she wants to set it up. And then I only ever do one bracket. And then if anyone asks me to enter everything, I just use
the same bracket.
Because I'll hate myself if I do a stupid bracket where it's based on uniforms and then one that I've spent hours on and then the uniform one does better.
Yep. And I did notice, I think on Facebook, I saw Callie at the beach yesterday, and granted that could have been just the weekend.
Wednesday, I think.
Okay, so she's back. Do we know that she's back?
No, I think she comes back midweek.
So there might be. I don't know that we'll give it a shot. We might be on our own. Okay, here we go. Okay, you are listening to Justin Bieber. Dave Ayler did not consciously choose the Justin Bieber rejoin music. I did not choose the Bieber rejoin music. Shannon Salty Sweeney, it was you.
All you Bieber haters better get with the program. He's taken over, and this time people are taking him seriously.
I'm not a Bieber hater. I just don't get it. I don't get the Bieber.
See, I don't think there's anything to get anymore. I think back then it was the hair and the age, and he was everywhere all the time. Now he just makes good tunes.
All right. I will expand my mind, and I will be open to Bieber Nation. Speaking of Bieber and music, I must admit, because I was working the Spurs broadcast last night, so I wasn't really locked into the Grammys last night. The Grammy Awards were last night. I think Taylor Swift got Album of the Year, and Beyonce got some big award. Or Beyonce now has more Grammys than anybody ever, something like that.
And her daughter won one because her daughter was part of the song. And so her daughter is now the second youngest person to ever win a Grammy at 9 years old.
9-year-old Beyonce's daughter has a Grammy.
Want to wake up on a Monday and feel less than.
Yeah, what did you do at age 9? Beyonce's daughter has a Grammy. That's funny.
Figured out how to tell time.
Exactly.
Using a digital watch.
Drinking Kool-Aid and hanging out at the pool when I was 9. All right, in a moment, Shannon's Salty Shakedown. Within either this segment or the beginning of next segment, we've got to hear from the only soothsayer I know, Jeremy Founts. And by the way, coming up in the next hour is going to be pretty darn big. Carl Schoening, who was a big part of the show last week. How was Carl Schoening last week, Shannon?
He was great. Got us some great guests. Matt Bonner, as we mentioned, Keith Moreland, who's on the call for a lot of Texas athletic events. Yeah, I
Cool.
was watching Texas baseball yesterday, and he was on the call.
Outstanding. I love Carl Schoening. Anyway, we'll talk hoops with Carl Schoening, both NCAA tournament and pro. He's going to join us in the next hour, as will Andy Everett, the voice of UTSA athletics. And Andy, of course, a big NFL guy. We'll talk some Drew Brees with Andy. We'll talk some golf as well, as Justin Thomas wins the Players Championship. So we will get into all of that. But right now, it is March 15th. It is the Ides of March. How about this day in sports history? On this day in 1869, the first professional baseball team ever went professional. They're still in existence. Shannon, can you name the first professional baseball team ever in 1869? They are still a franchise in Major League Baseball.
Oh, they're still a franchise?
They're still a franchise. A slightly different name, but still the same name,
I was
sort
gonna
of.
say something sarcastic like the Baseballers, because I have no idea.
It is the Cincinnati Red Stockings.
Red Stockings.
What a weird name.
Stockings does sound old school.
Yeah, the Cincinnati Red Stockings. They became the Cincinnati Reds, and on their first game as a professional team on this day in 1869, they beat Antioch 41-7 in baseball in 9 innings, 41-7. And if Pete Rose were alive, he would have been betting Antioch in that one.
I'd watch more baseball if the scores were like that more often.
See, so they need to modify the game. This day in 1912, pitcher Cy Young retired from baseball with 511 wins. I hear he was pretty good. This day in 1958, in the NCAA tournament, Oscar Robertson of Cincinnati, wow, they're in the news. Oscar Robertson scored an NCAA Midwest region record, 56 points. The Big O, he was pretty good. And finally, on this day in 1988, the NFL's St. Louis Cardinals, Dave Ayler, they moved to Phoenix, Arizona on this day. Was that a dark day for you in 1988? Did you have to drink heavily when the Cardinals moved to Phoenix?
No, I was glad they were gone.
Wow. Get Bill Bidwell the hell out of here. You didn't like Neil Lomax and James Hart and Terry Metcalf? And
Dan Dierdorf was okay.
Jackie Roger Worley.
Roger Worley, wow.
He was badass.
Bakken.
Yes. Dan Dierdorf. Who was that? Offensive lineman who was a dirty player.
I know what you're talking about. I can't think of his name, though.
Conrad Dobler.
Conrad Dobler used to bite people.
How the hell do I remember Conrad Dobler? Get off my lawn. Yeah, he did. He would bite. There would be like a scrum, and dudes would be down on the ground, and he would bite the defensive lineman on the leg.
Is that where the Detroit coach comes in now with if we get knocked down?
Yes. Dan Campbell.
We'll take out one kneecap.
We'll take out a kneecap.
We'll take out another.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, you're running out of kneecaps now.
He's the modern day Conrad Dobler. So there you have it. That's this day in sports history. Moving right along to sports birthdays. Thank you, John, Paul, George, Ringo, Yoko, Patty Boyd, Olivia Harrison. Thank you. Cynthia Lennon doesn't get nearly the credit. Born on this day in 1926, Norm Van Brocklin. What a great name for a quarterback. Norm Van Brocklin, NFL quarterback, and later an NFL head coach, Hall of Famer Norm Van Brocklin. Born on this day in 1946, Bobby Bonds, the father of Barry Bonds, who is the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man. Bobby Bonds, born on this day in 1946 in Riverside, California. He died in 2003. Thanks for bringing me down. Born on this day in 1959, Harold Baines, outfielder, White Sox and Rangers. Born on this day in 1961, former Spur Terry Cummings. I like Terry Cummings a lot. Born on this day in 1969, Louis Riddick, NFL safety with the Browns and Falcons, became a broadcaster, Monday Night Football on ESPN. Louis Riddick, born on this day in Quakertown, Pennsylvania. Finally, your marquee birthday of the day. Born on this day in 1972, the youngest man to ever win a Super Bowl as head coach. He did it in 2008 with the Pittsburgh Steelers. He's still with the Pittsburgh Steelers. Happy birthday, head coach Mike Tomlin. born on this day in 1972, excuse me, in Hampton, Virginia. One quick birthday from yesterday, Shannon. Steph Curry turned 32 yesterday, and on his 32nd birthday, he dropped 32 on the Utah Jazz last night.
He did that on purpose.
I think he did. I hate him chewing on his mouth. No, he didn't want 33 or 31. He scored 32.
You see the video of him and his kid prior to?
No, I did not.
He picked his kid up and they were taking a picture, and then before he put his kid down, he had him do the chest tap with the point up.
Was the little kid chewing on a mouthpiece? Here.
No.
What was it? The little girl who he was? Okay.
His son, I believe.
The little girl was very adorable.
Yeah.
So
she's not little anymore.
Yeah, well, she's probably 16 now. God.
I don't want to go to Dad's games.
Exactly. He embarrasses me. Leave me alone, Dad. That is sports birthdays this day in sports history. And now the moment we've all been waiting for. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, friends, Romans, countrymen, Julius Caesar. Here it is. Shannon's Salty Shakedown.
Well, we thought the news in Dallas couldn't get any bigger after the signing of Dak Prescott to a contract with the Dallas Cowboys. Finally, it's what we've all been waiting for. But Salt Bae has officially moved into Dallas. He has opened a restaurant. As most people know, a few years Salt Bae took over the internet with his special steak and steak knife skills, followed by that special sprinkle of the salt with the particular arm movements and finger dropping of the salt shavings on top of those steaks. And then he typically stabs his knife into those cut pieces and then hand feeds whoever he is serving, whoever's lucky enough to have him carving tableside. So he has opened a restaurant last week, and Amari Cooper and friends came in to see what all the fuss was about. They had a gold steak that Salt Bae cut right in front of him, did the whole thing, and then he stabbed the piece of steak and started holding it towards Amari Cooper's mouth. And Amari Cooper said, "Not today, sir. I don't want to be a meme." He kept ducking it. He kept pointing to other people at his table. Finally, after Salt Bae is holding this random piece of meat on this knife in the air over the table, a small child from another table comes in, opens his mouth, and gladly takes what was probably a $200 bite of steak off this man's knife. But Salt Bae has officially entered Texas. I'd go to his restaurant. I don't know about having a man shove a knife in my mouth.
No.
I don't care what kind of good gold meat is on top of it, sprinkled with his special salt. Don't you take that and make it a drop, sir. I know, Dave, if you're the producer, we think you are, you would take that and make it a drop. But do not do that. My mother listens to this show. But Salt Bae in Dallas, I think whenever this is over and we can go on these trips, Chris, we have to go to.
Yes.
And obviously, I can't afford gold steak myself, but just a sponsored trip, I'd love to do it. I'd love to see, as Salty, I would love to see Salt Bae.
The two of you in a photo. God, yes.
Are you aware of him to begin with? Like when I say Salt Bae,
I have
heard him, right?
I have heard of him, but I'm not well versed in the world of Salt Bae. But I must tell you, in the era of COVID, and I know he washes his hands, but I don't want you sticking your
gloves too.
All right, I don't want you
every time, which you did, I believe, beforehand anyway.
I'll eat my own damn steak with a knife and fork. Yeah. That's all I'm saying.
Everyone was saying how the video has gone viral across the internet, but everyone was saying Amari Cooper did not want to become a meme.
That's very funny.
Not wanting to become a meme, he became a meme for not wanting to become a meme.
That's great.
It was pretty great, but I hope he enjoyed the outing. Rave reviews coming in from Salt Bae's new restaurant. In sports and celebrity news, the big story going into the weekend was the breakup of J-Lo and A-Rod. They've been together for 4 years, engaged for 2. However, now there's kind of disputes because J-Rod was caught by TMZ leaving one of his mini homes, where he answered a phone call from J-Lo and answered, "Hey, babe." And they have released a statement that they are working on things. We don't know what these things are, of course, as always, because they are such high-profile people. There's always cheating rumors, but it was such a big story. Of course, A-Rod has been at a lot of her performances, most recently the Super Bowl. That one was kind of a big deal. And he's been known to be like the supportive boyfriend. Like that's the meme he is now, because he's always holding his phone up to video J-Lo while she's doing her thing. And so people were really heartbroken this weekend. What about you? Did you feel any sort of way?
I don't, and I wonder if it's even like real. Yeah, you know, I wonder if like the
It seems real when you look at their social stuff.
okay, but see, but
They
I
have
even
kids too that are like have come to be really like I think they all live together
yeah.
and
What
they've just spent all this COVID time together. It was probably like you get closer or you're like get me out of here.
Yeah, I see. I'm a cynic about. I just wonder if they thought, okay, well, we haven't been in the headlines in 7 days, so let's
Yeah.
say we're breaking up.
We weren't able to buy the Mets. Let's
Yeah.
think of how we can get back into the headlines here.
Yeah.
A lot of people, and obviously it's what they love to do to women, right? They love to like go and count their boyfriends, this, that, and the other. But I did see one that I did find kind of funny, and they said JLo is 1 ring away from being tied with Tom Brady because she has been married a couple times,
That's
engaged
great.
a couple times. But again, I was like, oh, that's funny, but also like now's not the time, not in this climate. But that is really funny. But
That is funny. I do think that's
But
funny.
I'll laugh in secret. All right,
Mhm.
finally, as we know, it is Monday after Selection Sunday, March Madness just around the corner. It's going
Whoa!
to be a fun-filled weekend with a majority of the tournament starting on Friday. Texas, of course, playing Abilene Christian on Saturday.
Hook 'em.
The big number, 47 million people are expected to place bets on this year's event. This, of course, coming after last year, there was no event for anyone to bet on. A lot of people probably even heading to Vegas. I haven't looked at what's out there. You know, of course, I played in some free FanDuel stuff for the Super Bowl. I won me $7. So I don't know,
Nice.
maybe I'll reinvest some of that and get in on some of these bracket challenges. But Duel, are you big on the? We should get Benny Bash back on.
We do, oh yes, I totally agree with that.
We'll try and reach out to him this week to
Absolutely.
get his take, because I'm sure he's got some hot tips for those that will take place as part of the 47 million people that will bet on this.
I love the brackets. I don't always put money on them, but I always like, you know, enter. I love what you said. You told me this off the air. You only do one bracket. I tend to do 2. I tend to do one with my head and one with my heart. My head is who I think is going to win based on my vast sports knowledge. Yeah, right. But then my heart is, you know,
Texas all the way.
Yeah, Texas versus USC
There you go.
in the national championship game. So that's So
yeah, I just don't, because I do one bracket where I've like studied and I've sat there and I've really taken the time to be like, this is what I really think is going to happen and what I believe to be true. And then I've done one where I've either just been like, all right, I'm either selecting all chalk or I'm going to do like kind of Jeremy and do
good morning.
the mascot thing.
Yeah.
And if that one ends up doing better than the one that I've spent hours on, then I go into a dark place.
And it's
Why
like,
am I here?
and day one, like by 1 p.m. on day one,
Busted.
bracket busted, and I'm bummed out. And I'm so excited going in. So we'll see what happens this time.
And do we have Jeremy?
We do, and
Player?
you brought him up. Now, first of all, we got to get by Thursday or Friday, because I know those first 4 games are not exactly real. We got to get Jeremy's bracket. We got to get everybody's bracket on the show. But Jeremy, you have established yourself as a soothsayer, and perhaps, and you are the only soothsayer I know. Today is the Ides of March. Famously, if you know your Shakespeare, it was the soothsayer who said to Julius Caesar, dude, and I don't know if this is modern day Shakespeare. He said, dude, beware the Ides of March. So therefore, we figured, Jeremy, we should ask you, the modern day 2021 soothsayer, is there anything we should all beware of on the Ides of March?
Well, not only is it the Ides of March, it is also Workplace Napping Day, National Workplace Napping Day. So do not take a nap that is bad for production.
Wait,
but
this
it's
napping day. Don't take a nap.
No, you are supposed to nap at work, but I am saying don't nap at work.
Wow. That's a complete reversal from National Workplace Napping Day.
Yeah, I'm
Okay.
a crazy guy.
Right.
Something else to watch out for. Much like how Morpheus told Neo to watch out for the woman in the red dress.
Nice.
Watch out for this Dave fella with the red cup. Okay, he's dangerous.
The red cup. What's in the red cup? Because when I think red cup, I think of it's water. Boring. Let's call it vodka.
Looks like vodka.
Ooh, nice.
There you go.
So is that it? You have anything else we should be concerned about?
Trust me.
Get your bracket done, Jeremy. We have a due date. Thursday morning.
Thursday. Okay.
Whether you're here with us or not.
I'll have it ready.
Okay.
I won't gamble because I want to give other people a chance. But
Thank you.
What days are you here this week, Jeremy?
Tomorrow and Friday.
Wow. So you're going to have to get us the bracket like before Friday.
And I need that signed and notarized.
Okay,
Please.
you got it.
Go to your local UPS.
And
I'm a FedEx guy.
wow. Oh, is
Do
that a
they
thing
notarize
too?
at
Is
FedEx?
you're either UPS or FedEx? Is that like I'm at whatever's closest. I'm whatever's nearest to me. I will go there. I didn't know it was a preference thing.
For someone as prolific as me, it has to be a preference thing. Just 'cause I'm so high profile.
Exactly. Finally, Jeremy, and I know we're up against it. As you fill out your bracket, is there an overriding philosophy as you choose teams in the NCAA tournament?
I haven't decided yet, but whatever it is, it's going to be good. It's going to be accurate. And bet on Jay. Bet on me because it's going to be for real.
I'm serious. He has made some bold predictions over the past year that have been real. They have come to fruition.
I'm gonna be in my feelings if I get here with my bracket and it's nothing close to Jeremy's.
Yeah, sorry, Shannon.
And by the way, be listening to the show. By tomorrow, we should have a lot more information on how you can join our brackets via the website, and you can compete with Shannon and me and everybody else on the show, and we'll figure out if you beat us, we'll figure out something fun somehow.
Might get a mug.
Yeah, well, you might
2 to
get.
3 years.
We're working on that mug. Yes, 2026. More coming up. Carl Schoening next on the Chris Duel Show. Oh, I got out late. Welcome in. Don Holding. Good to see you, Don. Carl Fisher, Jason Paniagua, John Paul Albert, good morning. All right, I am going to get my final cup of coffee for the morning. See, I've told this story before. I bring in my own darn coffee because there's a person here in the building who washes out the coffee makers. And it's not Tanner Carlson, but I was drinking coffee once and Tanner said, "You notice the coffee tastes like soap?" And the more I taste it, it's like, it does taste like soap. So I said, screw it. I will just make my own damn coffee at home, put it in this Strato tanker, and then I will pour it into cups, and I will heat it in the microwave. And that will be that. Because my coffee doesn't taste like soap. Governor Greg Abbott, if you're watching, I'm sorry, but there are other human beings in this building as I step out of the studio. There's a pandemic. I don't know if you've heard of this guy named Dr. Fauci and other leading epidemiologists around the globe who say we should wear a mask to protect not only ourselves, but others.
Hey, Chris.
Yeah.
Do you hear me? You know that match play is coming up? Jordan Uplegger is like the guy who does everything for it.
Okay.
Are you interested in having him on within
Sure.
the next 2 weeks? Talk about, because they're letting fans in.
Okay.
And you know,
Yes.
last year was the first year Tiger came, and I'm sure that'll be
Wow.
a disappointment this year that he's obviously not going to be here.
Yeah.
But
that
and
would
it's also like the top 64 players in the world.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that
Yeah.
might be something to bring up with Andy as well. But yeah, no, absolutely.
Okay. Is there a time or day, or just see when he's available?
When he's available, but B, with kind of an eye on, Bill Schoening's Wednesday at 8. So, we'll try to,
All right, I'll send him a couple options and we'll see what he says.
Okay. Yeah. And again, if other than Bill, we can probably move most people around, like James Allen and others. So, ideally I'd rather not do that, but if we need to, we'll We'll figure it out. I'll be right back.
Leo, what is the noodle tree? Never heard of the place.
Bernard Trefan, speaking of letting fans in, did you see the venue offering COVID-19 vaccinations I did see that story, Bernard. I would go do that. I think that's smart. I think it's cool. No napping, says Jeremy Fouts. Well, Don, we're glad you're here. Don Holding is in here. Great man. Also known as Haz. I was honored to officiate the wedding of Don and his lovely bride. Very cool. I think my record, I got to go back and look at it. I'm either 8-0 or I'm 9-0. In weddings I have officiated, the national divorce rate is at 50%. The national divorce rate among couples that I officiated their wedding is 0%. It's one of the things I tell people. If you two break up, you ruin my record. I am going to go on social media. So anyway, good to see you, Don. Noodle tree. I saw that, Leo. Some idiots vandalized Noodle Tree, an Asian restaurant in San Antonio. I can't believe this happened in San Antonio. with hateful, racist graffiti all over it because they decided to ask patrons to wear a mask. I know. Stunning. And I hate that happened in our city, which is usually very conscious and with it and non-racist. Good morning, Dean Stone. What is up? Dave Ayler calling Carl Schoening. Thank you, Bernard. That's a good question. If someone's going to officiate your wedding, ask him, hey, what's your record? Are you undefeated? Or are you at least above 70%? Yeah, I've lost track of, I think either 8 or 9. I'll have to look back. Oh, good. My buddy Greg Abbott's on Fox News. Imagine that. The only channel I get in here is Fox News. So it's.
Where's the cable box located? That's what you have to do is find the cable box in the.
I know, and I have no idea where it is. I have no. It's like via a computer that is somehow routed in here.
See, that's how all of ours are, but the box is in the Zone studio.
Okay.
So I can control it, but it's not the studio that I use, so I can't. It doesn't even matter. It's just always on the sports network.
Yeah.
Leo, that sucks about Noodle Tree.
Yeah, that was awful.
That's horrible.
Yeah, Dean, my batteries are recharged. I feel better. Thank you, sir.
Did you get any souvenirs? You a souvenir guy?
Not really. What we do, and this is lame, but I'm lame. We're like we pick up a refrigerator magnet. So all over our refrigerator is like Santa Fe, Nashville, Cancun.
My mom does the Christmas ornament thing.
Very nice. That's way cool. And at Christmas time, you have all the places I like that.
Yeah, I think I'll start doing that.
Just a refrigerator magnet. Ooh, the name has been retired by Don. Whoa. Don, you need to come on the show. Don is 59 years old. He used to be a wrestling promoter. He had a wrestling company. And now at 59, he's been working out, and he's going to make his professional wrestling debut at age 59. Don, come on the damn show, and let's talk about it. Like a week or two before your debut, and I would love to go out. Chris will marry you for beer. That's true. I would love to come out, Don, if I can get out there. So let's talk about if there's not a Spurs game that night.
Now, Chris Duel.
Beware the Ides of March. I know I'm a geek and I'm a freak, but you should beware. I mean, if Julius Caesar would have just listened to the soothsayer, things might have turned out better. I sometimes wait for the Doors to finish. Mr. Mojo Rison, the Lizard King, with the intro music. It's the Chris Duel Show, along with Shannon, Salty Sweeney, Dave Ayler, big time radio dude on loan from Charlie Parker and 1200 WOAI's monolithic blowtorch of 50,000 watts of absolute radio gold and fury. He's doing this show. He's slumming it with us. Dave Ayler, how's it going for you so far, man? You doing okay?
So far, Jeremy hasn't thrown me off or anything. Any problems or anything, it's all Jeremy's fault.
Exactly. And I know they'll do things just to trip you up, but that's good. That's cool. So, Shannon.
What I don't see is the whip Jeremy's holding.
Yes. And I mean, if he does use the whip, at least let us see that on video. Jeremy, give us.
Make sure we get you on solo screen for that one.
Give us something visual for the viewers on Facebook Live. If you're new to the show, we stream live video on AM 1300 The Zone and Ticket 760's Facebook page. So at the moment, you will see Shannon listed as the salty one. You'll see me wearing my Texas Longhorn T-shirt. Is it right? Is it right of me, Shannon, to wear a Longhorn T-shirt even though I went to USC?
That's fine. You're from Texas, so it's.
I
fine.
was accepted to Texas. I
There you
had
go.
I had a dorm reservation. Is Dobie Hall still on the campus
Mhm,
as a
yeah.
residence hall?
It's no longer the mall at the bottom.
Okay.
It's now got like a small Target in
Yeah.
it, and then they've got this cool rooftop
In
now.
1979, I was accepted and set to go to Texas. I had my dorm room at Dobie Hall ready to go. And then another school called the United States Air Force Academy said, "You're in if you want to come." So I went there, but only went for 2 years. Then I said, all this marching in a straight line on the way to lunch, that's a little much.
USC has a better fight song.
Have a better fight song.
Go there.
And they didn't have song girls at the Air Force Academy either. So I transferred.
What's a song girl.
Song girl is the USC cheerleaders. Have you seen them? They're on the sidelines. They're called song girls. See, not even cheerleaders. They're called song girls. And that's probably in 2021. That's probably a little archaic and maybe even inappropriate.
Song people.
Exactly. Song persons. And they wear these white cottony outfits with the short little skirts and cardinal and gold Nike tennis shoes.
Old school sounds uncomfortable.
I know,
I don't
but
like that.
I do appreciate them. I do appreciate them. So, all right. I have no idea why I went there. Song girls. You know who's not a song girl? He's a dude, and he's a basketball dude, and he was quite outstanding, not only on this show last week, but he even filled in for me over on Spurs Radio on Wednesday night and gosh, Shannon, and first of all, I must congratulate you. You didn't even rub my nose in the fact that your Dallas Mavericks humiliated my San Antonio Spurs while I was away.
Listen, the day after, I'm all for it, but there's other things going on.
Exactly.
There's still a lot of season left to be played.
And can you believe
right now the Spurs are still ahead of the Mavericks with one less loss on the season?
The Spurs 1-2 after the All-Star break, though. I'm getting a little nervous. We love talking basketball with this guy because every level of basketball, from AAU to high school to college to the pros. He is a basketball dude. He's a great broadcaster, owns a broadcast company. Our good friend, Mr. Carl Schoening. Carl, welcome back. How you doing, man?
I am barely awake. I think I went something like 22 out of 36 hours in a car. And if I wasn't in a car, I was either broadcasting or sleeping or eating. So a very hectic weekend for me.
And it started last week. You were doing this show with Shannon. You were doing the Spurs game on Wednesday night. You were doing high school playoff basketball and God knows what else. Tell us a little bit about what you've been doing in the world of broadcasting for the last few days.
Well, I think high school basketball ended last week. And I'm trying to think. I know I was organizing a baseball tournament. We had.
Come on, Richard.
So just in charge of making sure the 2 volleyball games and 2 basketball games for Southwestern University went off while I was traveling for the Southwestern University football game in Louisiana College. Joe also was one of our guests, the head coach of the football team. That was a little plug of what I was just kind of doing as well as Southwestern. So, I think overall it was just a very hectic weekend that I can't really remember everything, but part of that is because I did wake up so early for your show 3 out of the 5 days last week.
Well, and we loved having you, and Shannon says you were spectacular, and you always are. So I thank you not only for your great work on this show, but on the Spurs broadcast, and I thank you for getting up early this morning after the last several days of sleep deprivation for you. How excited are you about the NCAA tournament? What we saw yesterday on Selection Sunday, and you're a basketball geek. Is this your time of year?
Oh yeah, it's funny. I realized I started dating my girlfriend in June of 2019, and last night I just kind of started talking to her. It's like, oh, that's right, we didn't have a March Madness in our relationship to this point. It's kind of weird to think about that we've gone sort of whatever it is, a year and a half without a NCAA tournament. And obviously that's just because of how things went last year during the conference tournaments. So yeah, I really did miss it, even though I don't pay too much attention to the NCAA. I more pay attention to it to, see the prospects that will go into the NBA draft. I always kind of keep an eye on it as much as I can for teams like Texas, Texas State, and all those other kinds of things that, sorry, I got a couple cats fighting right here in front of me. Well, that threw me off, but I always enjoy watching NCAA games, and Texas has been a joy to watch this year. And yes, Shannon, I think Shaka has done enough to keep his job.
Are you sure about that? Is it because he doesn't have to win anything in the tournament? He gets knocked out to the Abilene Christians, and he's safe.
Yeah, I would say so. When you win a program's first Big 12 conference championship, even though the Kansas game got canceled, I say that you go ahead and extend him at least probably 2 or 3 years at this point.
Extend.
Wow.
No, we're done here.
Now, Carl, Shannon corrected me earlier in the show. I said Texas won the Big 12 championship, and she said, no. Texas won the Big 12 tournament. Baylor, actually, in the regular season, won the Big 12 championship, to which I said I would rather win the tournament than win the regular season, Big 12 regular season, and not win the tournament. Which is more important, winning the tournament and getting a better position in the NCAA tournament, theoretically, even though Baylor's a 2 seed and Texas is a 3, or winning, which is more impressive, winning the tournament or winning the regular season in the Big 12?
At the moment, what Baylor has done through the entire season is more impressive, winning the Big 12, but every team wants to get that automatic bid by winning their conference tournament, and I think that that's definitely something that gets your momentum going, because you talk about just being hot at the right time. It's March, and it's a single elimination tournament, and I think I'm of the school of thought, unless you're an all-time great team, you kind of have to lose sometime, and they were only having a couple losses on the season. Maybe it's good that they got knocked out in the Big 12 tournament for them, in my opinion. They could be a Final Four team, but so could Texas. I think that it's not going to be a blowout, or it's not going to be a blowout, but I think that they're going to have a tough game from Abilene Christian. But I think Texas wins that one pretty handily, just because they're the more talented team. The Southland, they're not bad basketball, but they're an FCF level school, and it's really just kind of a team that is really well put together, but they don't have any dynamic stars that can definitely take away from Texas. They actually have a 7-footer who's pretty solid in Colton Cole, but Jericho Sims is probably going to be able to limit his productivity. And then you don't really have any star players that stand out on the perimeter, but you do have a really good shooting team in Abilene Christian, and they all play really solid defense. So I kind of know a little bit about Abilene Christian because my business partner, Rob Hipp, broadcasts for Sam Houston State. He's which is also in the Southland, even though they're heading into the WAC soon, I think next year or the year after. But yeah, they play solid enough basketball, but it's just going to be a different talent level when 14 plays 3.
Now, Carl, what we love so much about the tournament are all the stories that come with it, right? From the teams that we've been rooting for all season long, to those Cinderella stories, to the Gonzagas who are already 26-0 and could be the first team in a long while to win it all and remain undefeated, to the Ionas, for anyone who could somehow be rooting for Rick Pitino during this time. Is there a story that you already have in the back of your mind where you're like, it'd be really cool to see this team win it?
Nah, that's the cool thing about the NCAA tournament, because these stories come out of nowhere. Like, your Cinderella stories are the teams that you don't really expect to do anything. Sure, you can kind of point out Iona and say, oh, Rick Pitino, you never know. That would be an interesting story, I suppose. But, it's like the Florida Gulf Coasts. If you remember Dunk City a couple of years ago, it feels like 3 years ago. Actually, it feels like 7 years ago, but it was probably 3 years ago. I can't really remember. I don't get my tournament straight now after a whole COVID layoff, but those Cinderella stories are always fun and interesting. And then, you find out certain things. I think Georgia State went on one of those runs with Ron Hunter and his son RJ. So it's always great to have sort of these cool stories that happen. And with so much basketball going on, and it being perhaps like the Super Bowl of basketball that's a month long or at least a few weeks long, you definitely kind of get to know these teams that keep on winning, and they sort of capture the imagination of the country. And the fact that it's been the most accessible, I guess, a sporting event in probably American history, with the way they just have a free app. You can watch it. I remember I used to just watch the NCAA tournament while I should have been like in school paying attention to something in college. So it's sort of funny how you really do have the biggest stage for all these guys, and those small stories do pop up. But no, none come to mind, but I do look forward to what will happen.
Talking hoops with Carl Schoening on the Chris Duel Show. Carl, you just said it's the Super Bowl of basketball, and our poll question today is, I think most people assume the Super Bowl is the greatest sporting championship of all. So the poll question was, after the Super Bowl, what's the next great championship sporting event? Is it the NCAA tournament? Is it the NBA Finals? Is it the World Series? Or is it something else? I think I know what you're going to say here, but after the Super Bowl, and maybe in your mind even ahead of the Super Bowl, what is your favorite championship event?
I'm obviously partial to the NBA, but I think that the NCAA tournament really has a sort of, it doesn't matter who you are, who you're pulling for. There tends to just always be great games. It's a very entertaining field of 68. And it's single elimination, so it's not like there's a series where if the Spurs lose to the Heat in game one, they have opportunities to come back. It's sort of a do or die situation. It really does bring out a lot of intensity, and I really do look forward to this NCAA tournament every year. And I would say that it's probably, maybe, dare I say, I know the Super Bowl has the one big day, but the fact that it's just such a big month, it has its own month. March Madness, including the conference tournaments, I almost would say that the NCAA tournament is really the last little piece of Americana, if you will, where everybody across the entire nation gets really into it no matter what. And I guess the Super Bowl is like that too, but, it's really just a pure sport fan thing. But even non-sports fans pay attention to this, and I guess the Super Bowl does that too, like I say. But more along the lines of, I'd say it's a lot closer to the Super Bowl on national interest level than you would think.
Yeah,
Super Bowl on a Saturday or have the Monday after as a national holiday, though.
I agree with what you're saying, Carl, and I think an argument can be made for the NCAA tournament on a par with, maybe even exceeding the Super Bowl for just interest and participation. And we were talking earlier, and it seems to happen all the time. You'll have bracket pools at the office or at your school or among your friends, and it'll be somebody, and we jokingly brought up Jeremy here, it'll be somebody, picking favorite colors or saying, a Wildcat would beat a Trojan, so I'm going to go with the Wildcat in this one. And it's often those people who get the most wins in a bracket challenge. Got to ask you, Carl, do you participate? Do you fill out a bracket? Do you enter or participate in bracket challenges? And if so, what is your philosophy in picking winners in a bracket?
I think when I used to pay more attention to the NCAA, I would actually go with kind of studying of who's been hot. Let's just look at the last 10 game schedules, but also sort of look at conference and strength of schedule. Certain things like, you have to kind of pick upsets, obviously, because upsets are going to happen. So you can't go chalk the whole way. So I think every year 12 beats a 5, and you don't want to be the person who has a team that gets to the Final Four eliminated in the first round. I know that I've had that happen to me too. So it's always kind of interesting. You kind of have to look at each individual matchup the entire time and roll the dice and guess, because anything can happen in this tournament. And that's kind of the fun part of it. Like, you do get to a certain point. I remember there was an epic game back in, I think, 2009 between Xavier and Kansas when it's a triple overtime. And if you somehow had that in your bracket, I don't see how you could probably pick between the two teams, because they're just sort of evenly matched at a certain point. I think in the Sweet 16 it was. So you just have these really fun matchups, and I have no idea how I actually pick them. I need to fill out my bracket, though, and I don't have any recent experience. Like I said, it feels like 5 years ago since that Duke team with Zion Williamson and R.J. Barrett and Cam Reddish, and I had them going to the championship, and I want to say they lost in like the second or third round. So obviously,
Roy Bragg.
Bracket, you probably rip it up by at the end of the first weekend, unless you're doing pretty good, and that's always a good feeling when you're kind of winning the pool.
Carl Schoening with us on the show. Carl, want to shift into some Spurs talk with you while we have you. As I mentioned, Spurs now 1-2 in this second half of the season after the All-Star break. And you're very familiar with the Philadelphia 76ers. You've been a fan growing up as a kid. I know they were your dad's team coming out of Philadelphia. I really thought last night, without Joel Embiid playing, as he's out with a hyperextended knee, I thought the Spurs playing well on the road this season would have an opportunity, even though DeMar DeRozan out of the lineup for the Spurs. He's back with family in Los Angeles for his father's funeral, but Sixers blew out the Spurs last night and had a huge third quarter. I think the Sixers scored 46 points in the third quarter, which is the most by far the Spurs have given up in a quarter this season. Should we be concerned? It's a small sample size, 3 games, 1-2, but the Spurs, who were so good on the road, lost at Dallas and now have lost at Philly. How do you feel about the San Antonio Spurs right now?
A few things go into that point that you were making about how the Spurs are 1-2 overall. You look at maybe just last night, obviously not having DeMar DeRozan plays a big factor into it. It was the first night that Philly had fans. So I think that the fans really do give you a lift, and I think you could tell that the 76ers were enjoying it. Danny Green decided to have a quote-unquote revenge game. Not that he has to revenge against the Spurs. They always want to play well against your former team. And you just have to deal with some of these things during the youth movement, especially when you don't have your 2 guys that were your vets that you were going to kind of rely on to do a bulk of your heavy lifting, and LaMarcus Aldridge and DeMar DeRozan. Obviously, we know what's going on with LaMarcus Aldridge, and again, DeMar still out with family personal issues. So hopefully he comes back soon. But I think that this is kind of what it looks like when you're rebuilding, and that's sort of new to Spurs fans, I noticed. So when you go through this youth movement, you have to accept everything as part of the learning experience. And the 76ers are legitimate contenders, even without Joel Embiid. I think that there's going to be a sort of really elevation of play from the entire 76ers, because a legitimate superstar in Ben Simmons gets to sort of have the reins to the team. And I thought he played really well yesterday. And then as a whole, the Spurs just 1-2 overall. They have to win those fringe games against teams like the Mavericks that are kind of jockeying for position with them in those 6 to 10 spots in the playoffs. But also, they really need to win games like tonight, even though it's the second night of a back-to-back against the Detroit Pistons, because these are the teams you should beat if you're a playoff team.
Totally agree. Pistons tonight. Spurs have had a rocky road on the second night of back-to-backs this season. So I think for Spurs fans, it's a big one tonight, as Carl documents. Carl Schoening is a great follow on Twitter at KSmedia13. You can there see links to his production company, a lot of what he's doing, his thoughts on the world of sports, and occasionally yoga. He is a professional yoga instructor. Carl Schoening, it has been a busy last several days for you. Again, I can't thank you enough for your work on this show and your work over on Spurs Radio last week as well. Thanks for getting up early with us. Thanks for taking the time. Let's do this again soon.
Absolutely. Yeah, we'll definitely have a lot of basketball to talk about in March. It's going to be fun.
Absolutely. We love having Carl Schoening. I'm noticing on Facebook Live, one of my favorite columnists ever, many years with the San Antonio Express News, Roy Bragg, who I've had on the radio before a number of times. Roy Bragg, good morning to Roy Bragg, who says the World Series is better than the Final Four. Roy Bragg stands by his opinion. Roy, I got to get you on the show sometime, man. We love having you on. It's been a long time. Good to see Roy Bragg in here. You can join us on Facebook Live. We're streaming live video on Ticket 760 and AM 1300, the Zone's Facebook pages. Coming up, Andy Everett, not only the voice of UTSA athletics, so he's got a thing or two to talk about when it comes to NCAA basketball. We'll get his thoughts on Drew Brees. And as a golf guru, he was locked in on Justin Thomas yesterday, winning a major tournament. We'll talk golf, basketball, Drew Brees, and more with Andy Everett coming up. Shannon Salty Sweeney in Austin. I'm Chris in San Antonio. Dave Ayler making the show go, along with the boy wonder and soothsayer Jeremy Fouts on the Ides of March. You're listening to the Chris Duel Show. Roy Bragg, about your shirt, if you want to be an Aggie, you go to A&M. If you want to be a Longhorn, you can go by Academy. Say again? Cool. I will tell him that right now. All right. Dave Ayler, Roy, you see him right here on the screen. He says Roy Bragg's a very, very cool guy. He said he met you at the Formula One race about 5 years ago. So, all right, to finish your thought, if you want to be a Longhorn, you can go by Academy. That explains all the Longhorn T-shirts in Huntsville, Georgetown, San Marcos, and Nacogdoches, if you know what I mean. Very good, Roy. Roy Bragg is an Aggie, for those of you scoring at home. And I believe, weren't you like roommates with Richard Oliver back in the day? I think that's a story. I think that's an accurate story. Well, Richard says, I appreciate the Stanley Cup, the most physically demanding tournament. Yeah, growing up in San Antonio, Richard, I just didn't grow up on hockey. I'm trying to develop an appreciation for it, and I've got a bit of one. I was Leisure Suit Larry, the mascot at San Antonio Iguanas games back in the day.
Chris, I sent you a chat message.
Ah, thank you, because I'm not locked in on that. Yes, I just saw that. Yeah, share that information, and whoever you want to get on as a guest to talk about that. And if you want to talk about that with Andy here as well.
Yeah, I think Jordan's going to join us, who's the director of the tournament.
Super.
But I'll send over this info. They mentioned in the thing that, they loved being with us the last couple of years, and they're like, but we don't have radio booths this year. I'm like, that's okay. We don't want to broadcast. We just want to go.
As long as they give all.
Hang out.
Yeah.
And also, they said they have a virtual media center this year, which is cool. So any audio, we don't have to physically stand there with our cell phones. I mean, it's gonna all be online to download. It'll be probably a lot clearer than what we typically get. So I'll share that right now to you.
That'd be cool. So would you get access like in live and in real time to interview some of the golfers? Is that a possibility?
I think they're doing most of the interviewing through the virtually. I'm not exactly sure. I just got approved. I mean, I signed up and got approved immediately. So I'm going to go in now and see what the actual credentials are.
Because if that's kind of how the Spurs work it, where if you're approved, you're part of like the Zoom chat if you choose. Mm-hmm. So if you do that, and like if you interview a golfer or you get a question in or something, I mean, we could always pull that audio and you could talk about it and we could go to the audio if you want. But yeah, and I apologize. I was on my StreamYard. I was on comments from everybody else. I forget to go back and look at the private chat.
Thanks for telling me. Would you come up if you got credentials for a day? And
if I was free, the weird thing is the weird thing is the Spurs schedule for the second half. There's never like 2 games off. They play either every other night, and there are 11 back-to-backs, one of them tonight. So issue number one is Spurs schedule, because when there's a Spurs game, it's difficult. Like there's a client, the sinus and snoring specialist up in Austin.
Yes.
I go up and I'm going through it so that I can talk about it. But so they had me scheduled, I think, for today. But since there was a Spurs game, if I hit traffic on the way back on I-35, I might not make it.
So looking ahead, the Spurs don't play next Friday.
Okay.
Which is the Friday of the tournament. And like, in my opinion, that Thursday and Friday are the best because it's match play, right? And so people keep getting cut and it withers down. I mean, the last time we could go 2 years ago, I went on Sunday. So there were 4 golfers.
Yeah.
Which was fun because you're like at the championship, but also there are 4 golfers.
Wow. Yeah, get me the info and we'll see if we can do that.
Yeah, I sent it. So you have to create an account first, and then they'll approve you. Go ahead and do the for your grouping.
Okay.
The iHeart-AM1300 zone. It should populate for you. That way you don't have to enter all the cumulus and all that stuff.
Did you watch? I think Andy wants to talk about Justin Thomas winning the Players Championship. I was locked into Spurs, obviously, and
so I did watch
Sunday.
Some of the tournament yesterday, but he came back from behind, so he wasn't really the focus of the cameras at the time I was watching. I didn't get to catch the end of the tournament.
Okay.
But you also wonder, he lost Ralph Lauren after his hot mic incident. If winning, that if someone will say, "You apologize, you've made good, make us millions of dollars by wearing our clothing."
Yeah. Fred Robert Casares Jr., welcome. Roy Bragg says, here's how they rank: World Series, then playoff hockey. Come on, Roy. First week of NCAA tournament, then the Super Bowl, then the NBA Finals. See, this is one of the reasons Roy was so good as a columnist. His opinion, he would back them up, but not always the mainstream opinion, which I always appreciate. John Williams, whatever happened to Michael Bartlett? He's around. He works mainly in the afternoon and nights. So with the Spurs playing like every other night or more, I just think he was a little overwhelmed by the early morning wake-up calls plus afternoon radio. So he's in the building. He just I think he opted out of early morning radio, which is his right. Christopher Summers, welcome. Christopher says the Lakers could be interested in Patty Mills. Huh. Man, if they lose Patty. Thank you. Thank you, sir. From a veteran leadership standpoint, and Carl Schoening talked about this, LaMarcus Aldridge gone, whatever you think about him, and there he is. He was a veteran, provided veteran leadership. DeMar DeRozan has been out with family after the death of his father. He'll be back. But, Patty Mills, the longest tenured Spur, and by all accounts, kind of the spiritual leader of that team. Even Pop called him the spiritual leader of that team. Man, you lose him, and Carl just referred to it as rebuilding, which I kind of disagree with. I think they're a very good team. They're better than they were each of the last 2 years. They're better than they've been since Kawhi left. That's a lot of in one season. You lose LaMarcus, and if you lost Patty Mills, and I heard was after Rudy Gay. I heard the Miami Heat were interested in Rudy Gay. We'll see. I say this a lot though, and it's true. As the trade deadline nears, a lot of people think they know what the Spurs are going to do. Even like professional analysts think they know what the Spurs are going to do, and they're never right. And we're never right. And you're never right. The Spurs never do what you think they're going to do. Okay, here comes Andy Everett. So I guess Shannon, I'll go Brees, NCAA, little UTSA, and then some golf with Justin Thomas. I got to go to the chorus. That was the song that put Katy Perry on my radar. You kissed a who and you what? The reason we play Katy Perry, and one of the many reasons I respect Andy Everett proudly takes a stand. He likes Katy Perry music, and he likes ABBA, which is even, that's it. That's like me saying I like Barry Manilow, which I do. People, you like Barry Manilow? Yes, I do. And Andy Everett likes Katy Perry and ABBA. He is the voice of UTSA athletics, host of the golf show on Ticket 760. He is a Tiger Woods historian. He is Andy Everett. Andy, how you doing this morning?
All right. I wish we were still playing basketball, but the season has to come to an end for all but 68 or so teams at this stage of the year, and then another month from now, there'll only be one that's happy. So a decent year for UTSA, and we have to wait 8 months for the next game. Okay?
Yeah, well, and let's go there. We'll go UTSA first, and then we'll dive into NCAA basketball. You are the voice of UTSA athletics. We've talked about it. Javon Jackson, Keaton Wallace, couple of big-time players for that program. Steve Henson, the head coach, you will be with him tonight, 7 o'clock in San Antonio on Ticket 760 for the final Steve Henson show of the season. What is next for this program with maybe, these two guys perhaps moving on?
Well, one thing I want to, point out, not only are Javon and Keaton leading as the second and sixth all-time leading scorers in conference history, the top two scorers in UTSA history, they fell 9 points shy last Thursday from becoming the all-time dynamic duo, if you will. Johnny Dawkins and Mark Hilary set that stage, and I think it's 4,630 career points, and Javon and Keaton finished with 4,631.
Wow.
Pretty good company when you compare yourself to anything that's ever happened to do. So they came really close to that. Javon did not play well either game, but especially in the second game. I think for next year, they're going to look a lot differently. There'll be 6 or 7 new faces on the team. They have a guard that played this year, and I don't know his scoring average. He didn't. The ball was going to those other two guys most of the time. But Jordan Knighty Curry in high school last year scored almost 40 points a game. So they've got a good scorer there, and I think he'll even outscore 40 in college. But I think he can be counted on for a good, 13 to 18 a game, somewhere in that range. And they have what I think will become the best center in the league when Charles Bassey decides to go pro, which I think will be this year, and that's Jacob Germany. So they've got a good nucleus to build on with a whole bunch of other guys coming in and a few guys that didn't get a lot of minutes this year being able to step up.
Andy, the fact that Javon Jackson and Keaton Wallace, as you mentioned, darn near 9 points away from being the best dynamic duo ever in college basketball, does that impact recruiting for Steve Henson? Do other really dynamic players out there go, hey, I can go to UTSA and really carve out an amazing career for myself?
Well, I think it does. I don't think it hurts at all. And the one thing that Steve and his staff have done is said, okay, we don't have an arena to come to play to, and we don't play in front of 10,000 fans every night. But you can come here and you can compete, and look at what these two guys have done. And whether or not they make the NBA or not, I mean, I'm sure they could be late second round picks. They could be invited to training camps or summer league camps. Should they bring those back this year? More than likely, they're going to play in the G League for a while or in Europe. But somewhere along the line, you're going to get discovered. And in this era where everything is on video, even if you're not on national TV every week, you have a chance to be discovered. So do you want to go sit on the bench in Texas for the next 3 years and play your junior and senior year, or do you want to come here and play now? And I think that's the player that UTSA can easily recruit to.
Andy Everett making a very compelling case there. All right, Andy, moving from UTSA to the NCAA tournament yesterday, Selection Sunday. We now know the matchups and the brackets. Anything intrigue you? And I know, and we've asked you before, I know you're hyper focused on UTSA basketball for the extent of the season until they're done. Now that they're done, can you take a breath and do you appreciate and get a chance to enjoy the tournament?
Absolutely. I think everybody does. And I think it's all about your bracket and the contest that you're in and all those things. I think Texas winning the conference tournament was huge. Now, obviously, they did not have to play Kansas because they had the COVID issues and were disqualified midway through. But I hope people get off the back of Shaka Smart. And I think they have a chance. I'm not saying they will.
Shannon?
Chance to make a good run in this tournament. Their matchups, I think, maybe favor them if they play well. And whether they play well or don't play well, it's always on the coach. And sometimes the shot doesn't go in. You know, one of the things that a lot of players don't like about the Star in Frisco when we play up there is that you're basically playing in a dome stadium. It's like playing in the Alamo Dome with terrible depth perception that you're not used to in a regular arena. So you may get a game at at Bradley University where you really like the setting, or you might get a game at Lucas Oil Stadium where you really don't. So a lot of times things like that matter. But I really hope that Shaka Smart makes a good run. I'm kind of tired of every time a coach doesn't win the national championship in his second year, everybody wants to run him off. And so I think the Hornets have a good chance of making a run. I would say the same thing about the other Big 12 schools, Texas Tech, Baylor, and Oklahoma. Oklahoma's going to have to play Gonzaga in the second round, and I think that's where their party comes to an end. And Texas Tech and Baylor have been pretty solid, especially Baylor all year. So I think the Big 12 has a chance to make a good showing.
Yeah, I'm not with you on the Shaka Smart thing. I know we talked about it
Come on.
last week. It's his 6th year. It's not a second year. It's his 6th year, and he's just not going to.
When you start talking about replacing Shaka Smart, who are you going to replace him with? Someone who's better.
A stick of butter.
Someday, and who knows when that's going to happen if they ever get it off the ground. But how are you going to there's always somebody looking for someone better. And more often than not, the guy that you get isn't as good as the guy that you had before for 2 or 3 years, and now he comes on the hot seat. So I don't think Shaka Smart's a bad coach. I think the Big 12 in general is really, really hard to recruit to because, especially in Texas, none of the Big 12 schools have huge attendance unless Kansas or Oklahoma shows up. And that's one of the things that I remember UCLA did a study about 7 or 8 years ago about how can we get more people to come to the games. And they went to Texas and they asked people the same question up there. And they're going, well, as soon as you figure it out, let us know because we get about 3,000 a game that actually pay to get in unless Kansas or OU shows up. So it's a tough situation, I think, of all the schools in the Big 12. Texas Tech kind of out in the middle of nowhere may be able to get a easier fan base because there's not a lot more to do. But I think Texas and UTSA and Baylor suffer because there is a lot to do.
He is Andy Everett, not only the voice of UTSA athletics, but host of the golf show on Ticket 760 in San Antonio. And while yesterday, Andy, as you well know, the 2 big stories were Selection Sunday and the Drew Brees retirement. Also yesterday, Justin Thomas rallies from way back to win the Players Championship. I imagine you were locked in on that one. Your thoughts on what Justin Thomas did yesterday?
Well, he's had a lot on his plate the last 3 months. Some of it obviously self-inflicted with the comment he made to himself walking off the greens in Hawaii and ended up taking a lot of heat for that, rightfully so, and losing his sponsorship with Ralph Lauren. And I think he handled it as well as you possibly can and has made amends to try to move in a more positive direction from that. His grandfather died last month, which him and his grandfather played a ton of golf ever since they were really little. It's a golf family. Justin Thomas told people, this is what I do. I play golf and I watch World TV and I go back to the gym and then I go play more golf. And that's kind of his life. And for him to win this tournament, this isn't considered a major, but from a player perspective, it is. And the $15 million purse that they're playing for and the almost $3 million to the winner gets your attention pretty quickly. And it's on a fabulous golf course. It's one of the best golf Tour put on a really good show, and there were about 10,000 fans there a day. And hopefully we can add to that going forward in the future.
Now, we know that Justin lost his Ralph Lauren sponsorship after a hot mic incident earlier in the season, but with championships just around the corner and him being on a hot streak after getting this Players Championship win, you think we'll see him heading into the majors with a new logo on his chest?
I don't think so yet. And Ralph Lauren even left the door open to say, maybe we'll revisit this in a little bit. I guess they just want the dust to die down a little bit. But Citigroup still has their logo on his sleeve. And I think he's got 2 or 3 other sponsors that gave him a pass from that January situation. But obviously the Ralph Lauren logo is the biggest one that was out there, and more likely than not the biggest non-golf brand that he had. I don't know what he's getting paid, probably $1 million a year or thereabouts. But I think that he will get another sponsorship somewhere along the line. Whether it's Ralph Lauren or not, I don't know. But maybe they'll wait until at least the end of the year to bring him back. No, a lot of companies are going to want people that have the visibility that Justin Thomas has. But I think there needs to be a little bit longer than 2.5 months of atonement before you start paying somebody again to run your brand.
He is Andy Everett, the host of the golf show on Ticket 760, 8 in the morning in San Antonio on Saturdays. Also the voice of UTSA Athletics. Again, UTSA fans, the final Steve Henson show of the season, 7 o'clock tonight with Andy and Coach Steve Henson. You either get it in San Antonio on Ticket 760 or wherever you are, you can access it on the iHeartRadio app. And Andy Everett, you did it again last week. You helped us out. You helped me out. In a big way, co-hosting with Shannon on the show last week. I want to thank you for that as well.
Yeah, we had a good time last Tuesday and Wednesday, and the magic of radio. I was in Frisco, and she was in Austin, and we even had Tanner on from San Antonio, so we got the trifecta there.
Very, very cool. I sure do appreciate it. Andy, have a great show tonight at 7 with Coach Steve Henson. Have a great week.
All right, take care.
All right, Andy Everett, host of the golf show. Shannon, we're in the final 2-minute warning for this show. The poll question we asked was, after the Super Bowl, what's the next biggest championship sporting event? Where do we stand on that, Shannon?
A lot of people saying the NCAA tournament still with the lead at 63%, but some difference now in the NBA Finals and World Series. World Series coming in at 18%, NBA Finals 9%, and other 9%. I don't know what that other would be.
I don't know either. Wimbledon? I don't know. The World Series, I mean, amazing that, the World Series is kind of an afterthought. I mean, for decades and decades and decades, until maybe the 60s or 70s, when the NFL and the Super Bowl became such a big thing, I mean, the World Series was like untouchable.
I think it's the pace. I mean, you think of all the buzzer beaters we have in March Madness, World Series, there's nothing like it.
Yeah, it's fun.
Off, but how often do you get those?
Yeah, and tomorrow on the show, we'll have information. We want you to join and compete with us with brackets, and we'll tell you how you can do that tomorrow. Our thanks to Dylan Emery, the blue-collar sports dad, Carl Schoening, Andy Everett, Dave Ayler making the show go, slumming it with us from his normally high-profile gig on the morning news on 1200 WOAI. Jeremy Fouts, the boy wonder and soothsayer, on the Ides of March. We'll get his bracket. Dave, we got to get your bracket now. You're under the gun. All right, cool. And we'll figure out some kind of bragging rights. Shannon, enjoy your Monday. We'll see you tomorrow.
Yes, sir. You as well.
Cool. Have a great Monday. It is the Ides of March. Beware. If you see that Brutus guy, watch out for his knife. It's a little steely and it cuts. Have yourself a great Monday later. Adios. Adios, muchachos.